Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. I am a trainer, activating the Insect Race Domination System. Chapter 41. Inside the assessment venue, Lu Chen was walking towards the core area. In order to save time, he had to use all his best tricks to sweep the second-level beast area. Both his spiritual power and energy were consumed greatly. Now that everything is done, he can recover. After all, there will be no one competing with him for the third-level beast, right? Thinking of this, Lu Chen looked back and saw a stubborn figure following him. It was Yun Yi. Although Lu Chen was puzzled by this guy's behavior, he was too lazy to care. Did he also want to attack the third-level beast? Lu Chen smiled and did not comment. He opened the panel and took a look. Devouring requirement, 83/100. He was not far from breaking through to the Rongqiao realm. The number of the second-level peak beasts is still not enough. If we can kill that third-level beast, it might be full after devouring it. Lu Chen knew it in his heart. Whether he could enter the Rongqiao realm in one fell swoop depended on the upcoming battle. After all, in order to prepare for the martial arts exam, almost all the second-level beasts around Linkang City have been captured. If I go to find them alone, it will probably take a lot of energy, and I may also encounter danger. Now it's the last minute, I have to fight with that third-level beast. According to the plan, if the second-level peak beast can meet the promotion conditions, Lu Chen will not hunt the third-level beast at all. The risk is too great. Even if the beast has been dealt with and is in a weak state. But it is still not something that he, a superhuman, can touch. Unless you use the insect swarm to slowly kill it. Thinking of this, Lu Chen shook his head. If nothing unexpected happens, if I really want to do it, the people outside will not continue to condone it, and they will definitely watch the battle through drones. But, although the blood-sucking insect swarm cannot be exposed, it can also be transformed into a flame form and serve as my second talent. But this ability is Lu Chen's biggest trump card. He doesn't want to use it unless it is absolutely necessary. Let's talk about it over there. My Earth-level body skills can at least guarantee my immortality, and it's also convenient to leave the battlefield. If possible, it's just a good opportunity to hone my skills. After a while, Lu Chen suddenly realized that Yun Yi was not the only one following him. Behind him, several seated players of this martial arts exam in Linkang City followed silently. Each of them looked excited and extremely excited. Are you preparing to watch the battle? Lu Chen looked back and saw Sun Qi, who was like a conspicuous bag, dancing and shouting silently, and exaggeratingly shouting with his mouth, God Lu is awesome. Lin Shui also waved her little fist to encourage him. As for the others, some were indifferent, some were watching the show, and some were showing goodwill. With the second-level beasts being swept away, there was no need for them to continue competing for points. And their own rankings had already opened up a gap with the people behind them, at least they were sure to be admitted to the Martial Arts Academy. After knowing that Lu Chen was going to hunt the third-level beast, they all followed him. Time passed slowly. More than 10 minutes later, a piece of open space appeared in front of Lu Chen, bounded by a unique pillar, which was filled with an inexplicable aura, making people palpitate. There were more than one such pillar, and there were more every 30 meters. They were distributed in a circle, separating the area inside from the outside world. We're here. Lu Chen understood that this was an official arrangement to restrain the third-level beast. Looking up, several military drones were hovering silently in the sky. Sure enough, people outside were looking at this place. Lu Chen's eyes were deep, as if he was looking at those people outside through the perspective of the drone. Senior Tianlegian, a 9th-level master, and the Du family. Take a chance. Even if you can't advance, it will be convenient for you to do another thing. The Du family, the family that wanted to kill him. Since it's a fight to the death, Lu Chen is naturally ready at any time. It's too late to wait until you get the mountain and river order as a golden ticket to avoid death. Maybe the other party will run away and go from open to secret. Revenge, it's better to take revenge as soon as possible. Without hesitation, Lu Chen stepped over the diaphragm and stepped directly into the area where the third-level beast was bound. It was like passing through a layer of water curtain and entering the core area of the entire examination room. As far as the eye can see, there is no tall building, only piles of ruins. There are huge footprints everywhere on the ground, which are hideous. The entire core area is extremely quiet and filled with a violent atmosphere. Lu Chen continued to move forward, his expression was particularly vigilant, and he began to search for the location of the target. Among the people following behind him, Yun Yi stood at the isolation device and wanted to learn from Lu Chen and step into it several times, but he hesitated. The expression on the face of this military genius kept changing. After all, he gritted his teeth and prepared to follow. He is also arrogant. Lu Chen dared to enter, what else could he not dare to do? But just after one foot stepped in, the ground suddenly began to tremble, and some gravel was even bounced off. Roar! A beast roar seemed to explode in everyone's ears. Then, the ruins that looked like a small hill in the distance suddenly suffered a violent impact, and a nearly 10-meter-tall body rushed over amid the flying earth and rocks. The violent aura was like a landslide and tsunami, sweeping over. Explosive flame demon ape. Sun Qi was horrified and took a few steps back uncontrollably. Apart from anything else, the 10-meter-tall body alone brought a great sense of oppression. What does that mean? In general, the first floor of a residential building is about 3 meters high. The explosive flame demon ape in the distance was like a 3-story building, pressing down at a terrifying speed. A third-level beast is at the same level as my aunt and grandfather. If I hit it casually, I'm afraid I'll die. Sun Qi subconsciously wanted to run away. But looking at the pillars in front of him, he restrained his fear. After all, this device was officially arranged, and there must be no problem with the binding range. Not far ahead, Yun Yi, who was just about to go in, turned around and rushed out without hesitation. Forget it. There must be a sense of propriety when it comes to being competitive. That's a third-level beast, comparable to the Yukong realm among warriors. Can I do it? If I slap it, I'm afraid it will become a meat paste. By the way, is Lu Chen crazy? If he is just competing with me in courage, then if I run away first now, wouldn't that mean I admit defeat in advance? Could it be that Lu Chen is also running towards this side? He looked back, but his pupils suddenly shrank. The tiny Lu Chen not only did not rush back, but even increased his speed, rushing forward towards the explosive flame demon ape. That scene was like a moth flying into a flame, which shocked Yun Yi and others. Are you crazy? For some reason, Yun Yi shouted loudly over there, even if the third-level beast is in a weak state, it is not something that the extraordinary realm can deal with. Isn't it okay for me to admit defeat? Come out quickly. But in his sight, Lu Chen ignored him and continued to stare at the explosive flame demon ape. Whoosh! The next moment, as the Earth-level body method, stepping on the fighting, was activated, his whole body turned into a residual image, disappearing on the spot like starlight. He was really ready to have a fight. And he didn't plan to use the red frost in the form of fire. Anyway, he had his body skills, at least he could save his life. Kill. Lu Chen held the standard alloy sword tightly in his hand, his eyes were cold, and he locked onto the explosive flame demon ape that was rushing towards him. Outside, on the stands, when the senior officials of Linkang City saw Lu Chen rushing towards the explosive flame demon ape, their hearts were shocked. Some of the weaker ones even stood up unconsciously. Their mouths were dry, and there was a wave of throbbing in the depths of their hearts, and they felt a trembling all over their bodies. That was a third-level beast. Sun Chenyan looked nervous, staring at the huge screen in the distance with her eyebrows fixed, and her hands were clenched into fists without knowing when, and she was sweating. As a powerful airman of the Sun family, she was naturally more than enough to deal with the third-level beast. But it was precisely because of this that she knew how terrifying the danger Lu Chen had to face was. It was reckless. If it was just to compete for the first place in the Linkang City martial arts examination, it would be completely unnecessary. After sweeping all the second-level beasts, Lu Chen's score had reached a terrifying data, which could not be surpassed at all. Now suddenly attacking the third-level beast, why? Sun Chenyan could not figure out this question. On the other hand, the old man next to him, Sun Junyu, who had originally frowned, seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes suddenly burst into brilliance. Lu Chen wants to kill someone. No, not only that. After ruling out all the impossibilities, Sun Junyu's heart was shocked. He almost guessed what Lu Chen was thinking. That kid tried his best to prove himself, and it was not just as simple as killing a few people. He wanted to annihilate the clan and eliminate the trouble forever. As the strongest man in Linkang City, Sun Junyu's strength was the 9th level of flying, only one step away from the master level. Having lived for more than 100 years, he has lived a transparent life. He knew very well that Lu Chen was a smart man and would not do extremely risky things for a name. There must be a deep reason for this choice. Combining some of Lu Chen's information, and what Sun Chenyan said before, Lu Chen asked about the information of Shan Ling. It is obvious that he wants to take action against the Du family. Lu Chen is a vindictive guy. He is worried that the Du family will flee and hide after seeing his potential, so he proves his potential to Chu Yuanlong, the Thunder Sword. In this case, it may be tonight. Sun Junyu was excited and admired Lu Chen's style more and more. At this level, he naturally knew very well. The power of the Du family in Linkang City is not small, and it is intertwined. It is basically impossible to destroy the family for no reason. But once Lu Chen shows his terrifying strength and talent, the existence related to the Du family will have to make a choice, and if nothing unexpected happens, they will all be cleared. And Lu Chen also has Chu Yuanlong's appreciation. The Du family will not survive tonight. As for the martial arts law, this is the least important. After all, if we really look into it, no big power is clean, and the rise of the Du family originally relied on shady dealings. Is this little guy really only 18 years old? He knows more than someone like me who is over 100 years old. Sun Junyu sighed in his heart, and felt that the Sun family's investment in Lu Chen was an extremely wise decision. Of course, everything has a prerequisite, that is, Lu Chen can really kill that third-level beast. After the activation of Bu Gang Ta Do, Lu Chen's speed sword, not really turning into starlight but a special effect of his body movement. At this time, he held an alloy sword, and his aura had reached its peak. The airflow around his ears whistled, like a knife cutting. Boom boom boom. The nearly 10-meter-tall explosive demon ape, after rushing to a stronger position, let out a violent roar, jumped up directly, and smashed down with his fists together. Buzz. Under the huge force and impact, the air was suddenly squeezed, like the roar of a pressure cooker under the extreme pressure. Feeling the terrifying force coming, Lu Chen's face remained unchanged. He exerted force on his right foot, and with the help of the Earth's recoil, he was ejected and flew into the air. With the full force of Bu Gang Ta Do, his footsteps were connected in the void, as if corresponding to some kind of star arrangement. As he approached the head of the explosive flame demon ape at a very fast speed, Lu Chen's face was stern, and his speed increased again. In the misty starlight, the flashing cold light of the alloy sword appeared from time to time. Kill. All the changes were done in one go, from Lu Chen's ejection to changing his position in the air to confuse. And now, he got what he wanted, and the tip of the knife pierced the eyeball of the demon ape. Unfortunately, the opponent was only level 3 after all, and it was not so easy to be effective. At the critical moment, he suddenly closed his eyes and blocked Lu Chen's attack with his membrane, which only sank, leaving a wound that was bleeding. Roar! The explosive demon ape was completely enraged, and its right arm slapped forward with great force, and its left hand opened its 5 fingers to cut off the retreat. What a thick defense! After missing the attack, Lu Chen immediately flew out diagonally, and was scraped by the demon ape's right arm while dodging. Bang! Lu Chen's entire body was smashed into the ruins next to him like a rag bag, and dust and smoke rose up. In the distance, Yunyi and others who were watching the battle were all pale. Even if they did not join the battlefield, they were too close and were even forced to retreat by the explosive energy. Brother Lu, is there anything wrong? Sun Qi muttered to himself, looking a little anxious. No one responded to him. Or, even Yunyi, the strongest person on the scene, was not qualified to judge a battle of this level. Only Lin Shui knew that Lu Chen had a hidden trump card, which was the S-level flame. But she was still worried at this time. Boom! Suddenly, Lu Chen, who was smashed into the stone ruins, shot out again, relying on his body skills to fight with the explosive demon ape. His condition was okay, and the previous attack was just a scratch. This third-level beast is very weak. It's a good opportunity to sharpen it. Lu Chen looked focused, constantly dodging, and when he found an opportunity, he jumped up and attacked the injured eye with the alloy sword. He even felt that slowly grinding it seemed to be able to grind it to death. Lu Chen didn't want to use the flame form of the blood-sucking insect unless it was necessary. In this way, guerrilla fighting, another 2 minutes passed. The battlefield was full of smoke and the roar of the demon ape. Later, the figures of the two could not be seen clearly, and the range of the battle became wider and wider. He actually persisted for so long. Yunyi, who was watching the battle from a distance, had a complicated look in his eyes, and he really saw the gap between himself and Lu Chen. He even didn't have the courage to face the third-level beast. He smiled bitterly and shook his head, and his heart completely lost his previous arrogance. Just as his mood fluctuated, the battlefield in the distance suddenly became quiet. Is it over? The hearts of the spectators suddenly rose to their throats. Under the gaze of a group of geniuses in Linkang City, a figure suddenly walked out from the depths of the dust, and it was Lu Chen. Bang! In the distance, a black shadow as high as 3 stories could be vaguely seen, suddenly rushing to the ground. A huge sound spread, and the ground trembled violently. Win! The third-level beast was really killed. Yunyi's heart trembled, his eyes widened, and he watched Lu Chen walk over step by step in a daze. Everyone has heard of miracles. But when it really happens in front of you, the indescribable shock will be deeply imprinted in your soul. Each martial arts exam is limited to 4 hours. During this time period, the formation cannot be closed midway, so each candidate must wait until the time is up before coming out. At this moment, time passed slowly. Near the middle circle, Bai Chuning and her best friend Shu Qin were already covered with blood, most of which were from fierce beasts. With the combined efforts of the two, the score was not bad, and it has always been kept in the top 15. After killing another first-level peak fierce beast, Bai Chuning looked at the time and said, "It's almost time, let's go to the exit, the time is almost up." When entering, everyone was teleported to a different location. If you want to go out, you can only go to the first entrance by yourself, and when the time is up, you can leave the venue directly. The hunting of fierce beasts has continued until now, and the scores have long been pulled apart. The last 10 minutes are not bad. Shu Qin nodded and put away the alloy sword in his hand. Let's go. Our results this time will definitely be able to enter the 9 major martial arts academies. According to the usual practice, the top 50 in each city are eligible to enter the 9 martial arts academies. And entering an academy of that level also means that the rest of your life is secure. It is not an exaggeration to say that you have brought honor to your family. Shu Qin is now beaming with joy, as if the pain in her body has disappeared. The two chattered and walked towards the exit. As if she suddenly thought of something, Shu Qin suddenly changed the subject and said, "After waiting for so long, I can finally see the true face of that guy. He dared to cheat in the martial arts exam, he might go to jail." She was talking about Lu Chen. She opened the bracelet and looked at the ranking, and her eyes widened immediately. "Chu Ning, look." She raised her arm, handed the bracelet screen to Bai Chu Ning, and sneered, "Is this guy really brainless? He got himself 3,000 points. Wow, I really don't know what to say." Throughout Daxia, there have been people who cheated in martial arts exams in the past 10 years. Those bold guys, at most, would control their scores to the minimum score for admission to the 9 martial arts academies. They were afraid that if they got too much, it would arouse suspicion. But now, Lu Chen actually got 3,000 points. I'm really going to laugh to death. Shu Qin looked like she was having fun and said exaggeratedly, "Doesn't that guy know what 3,000 points means? You must solve the third-level beasts in the central area before you can achieve it." Is this possible? She shook her head, obviously not believing it. Bai Chu Ning, who was next to her, was also a little confused after seeing the data for a few seconds. But no matter what, fortunately, I have cleared my relationship with Lu Chen. Fortunately, I didn't listen to my father and team up with Lu Chen. Fortunately, maybe I would also be affected by the cheating scandal. But Lin Shui, with such a good talent, why did she drag Lu Chen? If Lu Chen agreed at that time. In this way, Lin Shui would definitely not be able to enter the martial arts academy if she was affected. All kinds of thoughts flashed through Bai Chu Ning's mind. She certainly wouldn't say these dark things. Don't pay attention to him, let's go out quickly. Not long after, the two of them came to the door, just in time. It was the end of the martial arts exam. Many martial arts candidates had gathered in front and were leaving here in an orderly manner. On the young faces, some were excited, some were silent, and some had red eyes. After the world changed drastically and the martial arts era arrived, the martial arts exam was the biggest turning point in everyone's life. Those who passed the exam continued to study in the martial arts academy and had channels to obtain cultivation resources. And those who failed the exam would slowly weaken their chi and blood, and basically would gradually return to ordinary people. It can be said that one exam determines your life. Bai Chuning and Shu Qin were in the middle of the crowd. When they walked out, they suddenly found that the senior officials of the entire Linkang city were not sitting in their seats, but standing in front of the exit, as if waiting for something. Even the famous Grandmaster 9-layer power Chu Yunlong was no exception and stood at the front of the crowd. This is what happened. Shu Qin, who was standing next to him, looked excited and lowered her voice and said, "It must be Lu Chen who caused the trouble. That guy is finished." She had no good feelings towards Lu Chen. On the contrary, she only felt disgust and dislike for him after each contact. After hearing this, Bai Chuning subconsciously felt the same way, but she observed more carefully and found that Chu Yuanlong and others seemed to be full of excitement and expectation on their faces. Before she could figure it out, she followed the crowd of martial arts candidates and left carefully. When she passed by a group of senior executives, she didn't dare to breathe. Very soon, most of the martial arts candidates came out of the examination room and stood quietly on the flat ground behind them in line. On the other side, Lu Chen recovered directly on the spot after the battle. Although he relied on his body skills and used a war of attrition to grind to death the third-level beast that he had dealt with, he still suffered a certain degree of injury. Of course, there is another thing, which is to adjust the state and find a place to break through directly after going out. Yes, after killing the third-level beast and letting Hongshuang devour it, Lu Chen's progress in breaking through the level was finally complete. As long as he wanted, he could enter the Rongqiao realm at any time and obtain a new origin mother insect. New insect. Lu Chen was also looking forward to it. But at this time, there is no need to rush, it is better to rest. He did not leave, and the few people watching the game did not leave either. After all the second-level beasts in the entire martial arts examination venue have been killed, and there is no need to continue to compete. Anyway, their scores are all in the top 10. So one by one, they began to wait for Lu Chen. Some wanted to make friends, some wanted to ask for advice, and some wanted to make a familiar face. Until the martial arts examination time was almost over. Lu Chen just opened his eyes and saw several figures sitting cross-legged not far away. Boss Lu. Sun Qi was the first to run over, excited and unable to control himself. The others also came over to say hello. Some of them may have had some thoughts of competing for rankings before, but now they have no intention of competing for rankings at all. In addition, they are all young people, and they have long been impressed by Lu Chen's strength, and their eyes are full of admiration. After getting familiar with each other, these genius seeds of Linkang City escorted Lu Chen towards the exit. 10 minutes later, when they arrived at the exit, the entire Linkang City's high-level officials came into view. The man in the front, with a dignified temperament and a long sword on his back, was Chu Yuanlong, the Thunder Sword. As if they had thought of something, Sun Qi and others had a tacit understanding and quickly left from the side, leaving the main field to Lu Chen. The Grandmaster personally welcomed them. Yun Yi was moved, with only envy, not jealousy. Because he also knew that he could not have this talent and qualification. The gap between people was clearly drawn in this martial arts exam. Among the martial arts examinees far behind, Shu Qin, who was next to Bai Chuning, lowered her voice and said, "It's started. It's started. This guy is going to be judged." She hadn't finished her words yet. Chu Yuanlong's voice spread throughout the venue. He faced Lu Chen, took a few steps forward, and gently patted the shoulder of the boy in front of him. He said softly, "Lu Chen, you are very good. Very good. I am really shocked that there is such a talent like you in Linkang City." Speaking of this, the 9th-level master suddenly changed the subject, tried to smile, and continued, "Lu Chen, if you are interested, you can worship me as your master. Of course, don't rush to reply, you have enough time to make a choice." Not far behind Chu Yuanlong, the old man of the Sun family, Sun Junyu, had a gleam in his eyes and a smile on his lips. The little guy is going to deal with the Du family, and it's completely stable. With Chu Yuanlong as a backer. In Linkang City, Lu Chen can turn the world upside down. On the other side, Shu Qin's expression was sluggish, and the whole person didn't react at all. Bai Chuning was not much better, as if she had fallen into a dream. A thought suddenly arose in her mind. Could it be that Lu Chen's score was obtained by hunting ferocious beasts? But that was 3,000 points. You must kill that third-level beast to get it. Beside my ears, I heard my best friend Shu Qin's unconscious muttering, "Impossible, impossible, he can't kill a third-level beast no matter what." Sun Qi, who had just returned to the team, heard this. He said disdainfully, "Where did this idiot come from? Do you think you can point fingers at Lu Shen? Don't show off your stupidity everywhere, okay?" After thinking for a while, Sun Qi said proudly, "Forget it. I'm in a good mood, I'll tell you the truth. The second-level beasts in the entire middle circle were swept away by Lu Shen, and the third-level beasts in the core area were also killed by Lu Shen." Bai Chuning was struck by lightning. He turned his head stiffly, and his eyes fell from Sun Qi's face to Lu Chen in the distance. The afterglow of the setting sun poured down, giving the entire Linkang City a touch of gold. At the east gate, buses drove in, and the buses were full of students participating in this martial arts exam. In the carriages, some people were bragging in groups of 3 or 5, some were singing in a low voice, some were planning to confess, and some were silent. The setting sun sprinkled on the young faces, reflecting the last glory. From today on, everyone on the bus will go to a different future. At this time, Bai Chuning and Shu Qin sat side by side, looking stunned, not knowing what they were thinking. Although their grades were good enough to enter the 9 martial arts academies. But there was no joy in their hearts. After a while, Shu Qin looked nervous and turned around to say something. But she was afraid that others would hear it, so she took out her mobile phone and quickly typed a few lines of words and handed it to Bai Chuning. "Chuning, what should we do? Closing square bracket. How did Lu Chen become so strong? I have found out everything. What Sun Qi said is true. He has killed all the second-level beasts, and even the third-level beast in the ultimate test. Closing square bracket. It's over. Will he mess with us? Closing square bracket. What should I do, Chuning? I don't want to lose what I have now. Let's go and apologize to him later. After all, your family and he are old friends, so he shouldn't care. Closing square bracket. If it doesn't work, let's go and ask your father for help. Closing square bracket. Since the great changes in the world and the advent of the martial arts era, warriors have become the core. It is no exaggeration to say that all ordinary people are serving warriors. And in this social model, strength represents power. In addition, talent is the same. As long as you want to have it, money and power will come rolling in. Just like Lin Shui, an A-level awakener is worthy of Chu Yuanlong, a 9th-level master, to come to a small place like Linkang City in person to preside over the martial arts exam. And what Lu Chen showed. It is definitely more than 10 Lin Shui. When the martial arts exam just ended, the high-level officials of the entire Linkang City were all around Lu Chen, and the dog-licking look was indescribable. Whether it was the military, the martial arts association, or the major families, they all had the same face. That scene deeply shocked Shu Qin and Bai Chuning. It also brought fear. What if Lu Chen really became Chu Yuanlong's apprentice and intervened in the martial arts exam admission? He could get rid of their quota in a minute. The more I thought about it, the more I felt that it was very likely. At this moment, Shu Qin saw that Bai Chuning didn't speak, and a trace of resentment flashed in her eyes, and she continued to type. Chuning, what I did before was all for you. Closing square bracket. If I fabricated those words about Lu Chen and someone spread it to his ears, I would be ruined. We are sisters and best friends, you have to help me. Closing square bracket. Chuning, do you want me to kneel down and beg you? Closing square bracket. In Shu Qin's anxious eyes. Bai Chuning shook her head and said softly, Shu Qin, what are you talking about? Let's get off the bus later and go together. Don't worry, everything will be fine. The latter was relieved as if she had been pardoned. She had even thought about whether to find Lu Chen privately to expose Bai Chuning as a green tea. Time passed slowly. After more than 10 minutes, the motorcade stopped in the square in front of the Martial Arts Association. Bai Chuning and Shu Qin just got off the bus and couldn't wait to find Lu Chen. The latter did not sit in the bus, but took it with Chu Yuanlong. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes were full of envy. Let's go find him, Shu Qin said hurriedly. Wait, I'll put on lipstick. Bai Chuning hurriedly took out a small mirror from her bag, and after putting on lipstick, she quickly applied foundation and also messed up her hair. Then, she and Shu Qin ran through the crowd. She had a smile on her face and just came closer. Lu Chen, are you free? Before she finished her words, Lu Chen glanced at them lightly, passing by the two of them without stopping. That look was like looking at two passers-by, calm and indifferent. Bai Chuning suddenly felt a sense of being pricked by a needle in her heart. After all, the boy in front of her was still pursuing her not long ago. Could it be that after so many years of feelings, they could be taken back just by saying so? She took a step forward and was ready to continue speaking. But she found that Lin Shui came over from the side, nodded politely to the two of them, and then smiled softly and said to Lu Chen, "Let's go to Senior Chu's office." Lu Chen nodded, and walked into the Martial Arts Association with Lin Shui. The two women behind him could only watch. Bai Chuning's face kept changing, and a resentment rose in her heart. I don't know what she was thinking. When Shu Qin saw Lu Chen's attitude, she felt even more panic and her body was shaking. In the spacious office, Lu Chen and Lin Shui sat on the sofa. Across the coffee table, Chu Yuanlong personally made tea and poured it for the two of them with a smile. I called you here for two main reasons. First, I am not only the chief examiner of the Linkang City Martial Arts Examination, but also the executive vice president of Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy. I won't say more. To be frank, I want to invite you to enter Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy. After saying this, Chu Yuanlong's eyes fell mainly on Lu Chen. After all, he came from the main base of the war zone for Lin Shui, and the matter of applying for Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy had been settled long ago. Now the main purpose is to win over Lu Chen. Chu Yuanlong knew in his heart that the situation of the martial arts examination here might have spread to all war zones. If nothing unexpected happens, the 8 martial arts academies except Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy will probably send masters overnight, and they will use the highest standards of treatment to win over Lu Chen. After all, Lu Chen actually killed a 3rd-level ferocious beast on his own during the martial arts exam. This kind of strength is completely comparable to that of S-class awakened ones. There are not many such seedlings in all war zones. More importantly, Lu Chen's foundation is too clean. It doesn't belong to a top family, it doesn't belong to the military, it doesn't belong to a hidden force, it's just a blank piece of paper. This kind of genius is the uncut jade. How much better than those perverted monsters in the main base? With all kinds of thoughts rolling in his heart, Chu Yuanlong looked at Lu Chen. This big boss of the 9th level of the Grand Master was actually a little nervous. Not long after, Lu Chen nodded and said, "Senior Chu, I will apply for the Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy." Good. In excitement, Chu Yuanlong almost jumped up. After the stone in his heart cleared, he said the second thing. This martial arts test is different from the previous ones. The top 10 in each prefecture-level city will go to the main base of the theater to compete in the next round to compete for a place on the Tianzhou list. Lu Chen and Lin Shui were both stunned. After all, according to the past rules, the martial arts test ends here, and then you are waiting to enter the Martial Arts Academy. We have a total of 72 acropolises in the Zhongnan Theater. There are 720 people who advance in this first round. Including the candidates from the main base, there are almost 1,000 people. These 1,000 people are the elite of the entire Zhongnan war zone. They will undergo subsequent assessments until the last 50 people remain. Chu Yuanlong did not explain what the talent list was, but explained the rules clearly in a concise manner. After Lu Chen and the two of them digested it for a few seconds, he continued. And these 50 people will compete with the promotions from other war zones. The 8 war zones total 400, and only 100 people are left. These 100 people will be on the Great Summer Pride list. Quote. It took some time. After Chu Yuanlong finished talking about the Tianzhou list, he asked Lin Shui to leave first. He could see that Lu Chen still had something to do. At this moment, it was already 10 o'clock in the evening, the night was thick, and a cool breeze blew in from time to time outside the window. Little guy, there's no need to hesitate. Chu Yuanlong took the purple clay pot, filled it with tea again, and said with a smile, "Is it the Du family's business?" Lu Chen was stunned. He was guessed before he even opened his mouth. He raised his head and blinked, and heard Chu Yuanlong laugh and say, "It is indeed the case. You kid, you really must retaliate. But my warriors are talking about having clear thoughts." Lu Chen was a little embarrassed when his thoughts were tricked out. But after hearing Chu Yuanlong's words, he agreed with it and felt very good about it. Du Hongtian, the most powerful member of the Du family, is at the 4th level of air control. His strength is far greater than that weak 3rd level ferocious beast. If you want to deal with me, you'd better weigh yourself. Remember, you must be sure before you take action. In addition, Chu Yuanlong stood up, took out a box from behind his desk, and handed it to Lu Chen. He smiled and said, "There are 2 things in this. One is the Du family's criminal records over the years. So many lives are enough to exterminate the family. And the second thing is a law enforcement order authorized by me personally, which will make your name justifiable. Although you haven't become my teacher yet, I still have to teach you one thing. Although we warriors have the ability to trample on laws, we should try not to do so unless we have to. After all, rules are rules. If you don't abide by them, others will have to abide by them. Using force to violate the prohibition will only result in the thunder coming. Little guy, you have to learn to be flexible. After all, you have thousands of possibilities to put yourself on the side of justice." The night is dark. After Lu Chen left the Martial Arts Association. Standing on the big square, staring at the busy traffic in front of him with bright eyes. From Chu Yuanlong, he felt loved and pampered. After being silent for a long time, Lu Chen looked at the night sky and said to himself, "It seems good to have a teacher." After the previous martial arts test, Chu Yuanlong wanted to accept Lu Chen as his disciple in front of everyone and gave Lu Chen time to think about it. To be honest, he wasn't ready to accept it. After all, his deepest trump card is the Zerg and natural disasters. If one day it is exposed, I don't know what the consequences will be. Because of this, Lu Chen didn't want to be tainted with too many ties. But after what happened tonight, he had new ideas. The main reason is, of course, Chu Yuanlong's sincere appreciation and care for talents, but there is also another factor, the genius list. The list of geniuses. The reward is too terrifying. It's enough to allow me to cultivate a real Zerg scourge in a very short time. Lu Chen was very excited. If you rely on yourself, I don't know how long it will take to accumulate, and you will have to secretly search for resources. But once you are on the list of geniuses, it will be much easier. Let's not consider these things for now. Now, the moon is dark and the wind is high, it's time to kill. Do family affairs. There should be an end. Lu Chen knew in his heart that Chu Yuanlong had given him a procedural identity through his own channels, so he could take action at any time. But I also gave a serious reminder. Be sure to wait until you are sure before taking action. Senior Chu, are you going to use the Du family as a whetstone for me? I think he wants me to wait until I enter the Yukong realm before going to the Du family. But there is no need. Senior Chu is not very clear about the sharpness of my knife. Lu Chen smiled. With a thought, a strong heat flow suddenly emerged from the limbs and bones of his body, quickly flushing and opening up the meridians. At the location of the Dantian Purple Palace, the spiritual power cyclone rotated rapidly, absorbing the spiritual power in the body. The huge suction force expanded, causing the pores of Lu Chen's body to begin to flow into the spiritual energy of heaven and earth crazily. Pop! In my mind, the sound of glass breaking seemed to ring. The cyclone in the Dantian Purple Palace was condensing drops of liquid spiritual power at some point. As the blood and qi circulated at high speed, there was a faint sound of rivers flowing in the body, and the spiritual power after qualitative change began to reshape the whole body. Spiritual power turns into liquid, blood and qi are like rainbows. Is this the fusion realm? Lu Chen's whole person was reborn. His blood and qi value finally crossed 249 and reached 250. It is also the real fusion realm. When he released it casually, several light green gangjin appeared and disappeared, flashed in the void, and directly broke through the corner of the wall in the distance. The transcendent realm can only fight in close combat, while the fusion realm can gather spirits into gang and carry out long-range attacks. Liu Chen was satisfied. After all, he has the Earth-level body skills, and after the transformation of spiritual power, the overall combat power has increased by more than 10 times. Let's bind the third origin mother insect first. Although the blood-sucking insect is already strong enough. And there is a hidden ultimate trump card: the blood-sucking insect body self-destructs. But Du Hongtian of the Du family is a master of the 4th level of flying after all, so it is better to be fully prepared. Anyway, it's still early. Quote, that night, the people of the Du family must not be able to sleep. You don't have to think about it. But after seeing Liu Chen suddenly explode in the martial arts exam, not only sweeping the entire middle circle and slaughtering all the 2nd-level beasts, but also killing the 3rd-level beast by himself. This kind of shock, how much pressure will it bring to the people of the Du family? The whole family must be in a panic. The cold light in his eyes flashed, and Liu Chen collected his thoughts and stopped thinking. The Du family wanted to kill him. The same is true in reverse. After binding the 3rd origin mother worm, I will go to the Du family to collect the debt. Liu Chen was looking forward to it. The first blood-sucking worm is a natural disaster type. It can provide feedback to Liu Chen, making his strength improve rapidly, and it can also cultivate a natural disaster army. The second Dao Yan worm. Although it cannot become a natural disaster, as a functional source worm, it can deduce the evolution of the skills and improve proficiency. For Liu Chen himself, its value is no less than a natural disaster army. And now, the 3rd origin mother worm is born. In the south of the city, in a dilapidated old community. Unit buildings stand silently in the night, with residents occasionally lighting up like stars. After closing the curtains, Liu Chen was sitting on the sofa. As soon as he thought, a soft ball of light suddenly flew out from between his eyebrows and slowly floated in front of him. A translucent ribbon, composed of countless tiny light particles, like an umbilical cord. It extends from the center of your eyebrows and connects with the ball of light. In Liu Chen's mind, the basic information about the 3rd source mother worm emerged. Celestial crystal insect female. Rarity. Eternally unique. Attribute. Guardian type. Talent. Sky crystal guard. All sky crystal insects can be integrated into the host's physical body, increasing the physical strength. The specific effect depends on the number of Tianjing insect larvae. Gold devouring variety. Sky crystal insects eat ores, metals and other materials and will evolve accordingly. Number of children. 0. Reproduction requirements. Devouring ores, metals, etc. Infinite reproduction. Bind. Following the natural disaster type and functional type. Liu Chen's 3rd original female insect is another new species. Does it affect myself? The first talent is easy to understand. It is that the sky crystal insect can possess me and increase the strength of my physical body. But the second talent is a bit vague. With a trace of doubt in his heart, Liu Chen opened the specific ability description. Gold-eating variety. Explanation. The special ability of the sky crystal insect, after swallowing the corresponding materials, will undergo the corresponding evolution and feedback to the corresponding physique of the host. Evolutionary forms. Stone stage, gold stage, rare treasure stage, extraordinary stage, star stage, chaos stage. Stone steps. Sky crystal insects eat stones and gain evolution. The higher the level of the stone, the stronger the attribute ability. Gold level. Devour metal materials and gain evolution. After reading the detailed explanation, Liu Chen's heart trembled. This ability is a bit abnormal. To put it simply, the sky crystal insect evolves by swallowing the materials, and then merges with Liu Chen. This process is equivalent to enchantment. In addition to improving Liu Chen's physical strength, it also has special effects. Provide a certain physique. As for the specific effect, it completely depends on what materials are swallowed. There are 6 devouring evolutionary routes for sky crystal insects. In other words, it can provide 6 kinds of physiques. The ones in the front are fine, that is, they are made of stone, metal, etc., but the ones in the back are exaggerated. For example, the star level actually wants to swallow up the star field. It was hard for Liu Chen to imagine how many sky crystal insects would be needed to achieve this step. Trillions are not enough, right? Moreover, after being possessed by a star-level sky crystal insect, the abilities it brings to oneself are absolutely unimaginable. The third source mother worm can improve me almost without limit, and it becomes more powerful as I go to the back. It seems that we need to plan carefully. The first step is stone steps. More than a dozen common ore types appeared in Lu Chen's mind. After thinking about it for a while, he still shook his head. Bind first and then talk. For this kind of professional knowledge, it's better to ask someone. The Sun family is good. A thought came to my mind. Directly bound to the mother crystal worm. The ball of light floating in front of me suddenly flickered, as if it was breaking out of a cocoon, and an insect the size of a finger emerged from it. It looks like an ant, with wings on its back and a greenish-blue color all over its body. His two small eyes looked at Lu Chen, seeming a little cautious. After looking at each other for 2 seconds, he lowered his head and flew over, turning into a stream of light and integrating into Lu Chen's body. Another introverted bug. Lu Chen smiled. I'll call you Shaolin from now on. The words just fell. Hong Shuang's voice sounded in my mind. Hey, you're new here, why are you as shy as Kai? Why don't you check in with me first, eldest sister? Lu Chen smiled and ignored the little guy's domineering attitude. After Chong's eye is bound, his mind is like a chat group, and they can all communicate in it. Of course, Lu Chen can block it at any time. Kai has been able to speak for a long time after being fed in waves, but rarely makes a sound. He has been staying in Lu Chen's right arm. As for the new Shaolan, I still don't know if they can communicate. Hello, eldest sister. At this moment, a timid child's voice suddenly appeared in Lu Chen's mind, soft and weak, as if he had summoned up the courage to speak. Shaolin, you are much more sensible than Kai. Don't worry, the eldest sister will protect you from now on. The eldest sister is very powerful. Hearing this, Lu Chen smiled. It seemed that Hong Shuang was patting her chest in her head, looking full of pride. After the two insects communicated for a while, Shaolan said to Lu Chen again, Father. Father, hungry, food. Lu Chen felt warm in his heart and replied, Don't worry, I will take you to eat delicious food in 2 days. Just after Shaolin integrated into the body, a very strange feeling emerged in Lu Chen's heart. It's like, underneath the skin, there is a layer of clothes. Is this the celestial guardian? Lu Chen said to himself. After closing his eyes and feeling it, he suddenly said in surprise, it can actually be controlled. So far, there is only one sky crystal bug in Shaolan. If you want to protect your whole body, your defense will be greatly reduced, but if you let Shaolin's ability be concentrated on a certain area, such as the front of the heart and other key parts. That's quite impressive. Lu Chen summoned Hong Shuang and did an experiment for comparison. Let her transform into the strongest flame form and attack her right hand protected by Shaolan. A faint blue halo appeared. She actually held on. Although the duration could not exceed 10 seconds, it was still very exaggerated. You know, Hong Shuang's flame has evolved several times. At the beginning, in Chixia Mountain, she almost killed Du Shanghe, the master of the Du family's Rongchao. The protection of the sky crystal is positively correlated with the number of the sky crystal insects. If there are enough sub-bodies, can my defense be infinite? Lu Chen's heart surged. He wanted to immediately select the devourer of the stone steps, and let Shaolan start to reproduce crazily. Once the Du family's matter is resolved, it will be implemented immediately. The sky crystal insect devouring materials can also bring me special effects. The better the quality of the materials, the greater the improvement to me. After taking a deep breath, Lu Chen walked to the window and looked at the night outside. It was already 11 o'clock in the evening. Before the new day comes, let the Du family become history. In the Du family ancestral hall in Dongcheng district, several Du family high-level officials were present, all with serious expressions. The head of the family, Du Hongtian, stood in the first place, looked around at the people in front of him, and slowly said, Everyone. The catastrophe is coming, how should we deal with it? If you have any ideas, just tell me. For the Du family, Lu Chen's burst of talent was completely beyond their expectations. Previous intelligence also speculated that Du Shanghe, who was chasing Lu Chen in Chixia Mountain, was killed by Sun Chenyan of the Sun family. Now it seems that it is very likely that Lu Chen did it. And the unique Kalinzi Dufeng was also killed by Lu Chen. With this level of genius, plus Chu Yuanlong's appreciation, the Du family is indeed in big trouble. Master, there is only one Lu Chen. Even if he has some talent, it is not enough to bring disaster to our Du family, right? An elder said in a deep voice. In recent years, our Du family has also expanded its influence. There are several big figures in the main base of the war zone. Although Linkang City is not well developed in martial arts, and it is also a border city in the Zhongnan war zone. But due to the geographical location, there are many mines around. Although the owners of some mines are big figures in the main base, it is the Du family who is responsible for daily management. It is precisely because of these intricate interest networks that the Du family has risen and become one of the major forces in Linkang City. Not long ago, I received a few calls. Du Hongtian looked at the elder who spoke and said expressionlessly, because Chu Yuanlong said hello, the big figures in the main base have cut off their relationship with us. As soon as this was said, everyone in the clan temple was shocked. After a long silence, someone else said, now that things have come to this, we have only one choice. Get rid of Lu Chen. A genius who has not grown up is nothing. As long as there is no handle left, there is no need to worry about Chu Yuanlong. Someone else, after all, wanted to be safe, and said, in this situation, Lu Chen's rise is inevitable. I'm afraid the whole family can only leave Zhongnan. As soon as the voice fell, outside the clan temple, someone suddenly reported, Master, there are guests visiting, saying that they are here to collect debts from you. Collecting debts. In Linkang City, there are still people who dare to come to the Du family to collect debts. Du Hongtian laughed anxiously, with a cold look on his face. Are you here to add insult to injury when you see my Du family in trouble? When he thought of this, he showed murderous intent on his face. The more critical the moment, the more thunderous means are needed. Bring the person here. I want to see how that person collects debts. Following Du Hongtian's order, the doorman under his command left quickly, and soon led a person to the clan temple. The newcomer was tall and young. His eyes were bright and he was wearing a high school uniform. It was Lu Chen. After entering the hall from the main door, Lu Chen smiled as he looked at everyone in the hall. He walked in step by step amid the doubts of the people in front of him, and said with a smile, it seems that I am lucky and I came at the right time. He and the Du family were in a situation of life and death. Naturally, an investigation had been conducted long ago, and all the core personnel remembered it in their hearts. Now, at a glance, almost all the senior executives of the Du family were present, and they seemed to be in a meeting. Lu Chen. Du Hongtian narrowed his eyes slightly, and was doubtful in his heart. After a few seconds of pause, a smile appeared on his face. A friend came from afar, and I am sorry that I could not meet him from afar. At the same time, he winked secretly. The senior executives of the Du family in the clan temple quietly dispersed and surrounded Lu Chen. Squeak. The heavy door was gently closed, and the hall suddenly became brighter. All eyes fell on Lu Chen. But the latter seemed not to notice, and sat down by himself, leaning back on the back of the mahogany chair, and even closed his eyes. It must be said that these rich people really know how to enjoy themselves. This chair alone must be very expensive, and sitting on it can actually speed up the circulation of qi and blood. The hall fell into a strange silence. Many elders of the Du family, with spiritual power surging in their bodies, questioned Du Hongtian with their eyes. But the latter shook his head slightly and did not make a decision. Why? The door is closed, why don't you do it? Lu Chen opened his eyes, smiled and said, are you worried about Senior Chu Yuanlong? Don't worry, he is very busy and has no time to come here. I am the only one who comes here to collect debts. I wonder, little friend Lu, what kind of debt are you collecting? Du Hongtian asked with a smile on his face. Of course it's a life debt. Lu Chen looked over and grinned. Your Du family wants to kill me to seize the treasure, which has frightened me for so long and almost scared me to death. Shouldn't this debt be collected? Du Hongtian's expression changed, and he suddenly shouted, kill. That's it for now, there's nothing more to say. As long as Lu Chen is dealt with and enough profits are made to go to the main base of the war zone to build relationships, the Du family will naturally be able to get through this safely. After all, it was the other party who came to cause trouble, and he was accidentally killed during the counterattack. That's no problem, right? As a strong man at the 4th level of air control, Du Hongtian's attack was a sure blow. He moved directly in the void, grabbing the claws in his right hand, and locked onto Lu Chen's neck. The other fusion aperture realms also stepped forward to block Lu Chen's escape path. The wind howled, and the air exploded like thunder. But Lu Chen still didn't get up. With his strength, he would definitely not be able to beat a strong fighter in the air. In the previous martial arts test, he was able to kill a 3rd-level ferocious beast in the extraordinary realm only because the ferocious beast was extremely weak, and he also relied on his physical skills to kill him. Now, even if he enters the fusion aperture realm, he cannot be an opponent of the Shengsheng Yukong realm. Since you can't defeat yourself, then use other methods. For example, the blood-eating insect legion. Aha! The insect nest inscription on his right arm lit up, and suddenly groups of black shadows poured out from it, like a rushing flood, one after another, surging. 200,000 blood-eating worms were left for seeding, and the remaining more than 400,000 were all activated. Hong Shuang didn't take action, but lay on Lu Chen's shoulder. After all, devouring human warriors does not give back energy. The 2 techniques of the Du family have been obtained before. This time I just took the opportunity to see the strength of version 0.1 of the blood-eating insect legion. Master, please let me go. Hong Shuang's voice rang in his mind, and he wanted to rush over immediately. This little guy is usually clingy towards Lu Chen and likes to act coquettishly, but he is actually a fighting maniac. In the martial arts test venue, after devouring the 3rd-level ferocious beast, it seemed to have evolved again. Both his own combat power and his flame form have been strengthened. I know you are in a hurry, but don't be anxious yet. There will be plenty of opportunities later. Lu Chen chuckled softly. This time we use the insect swarm to fight, just to do an experiment. The data results are very important. And this time, as 400,000 blood-eating insects emerged, Du Hongtian was the first to bear the brunt. Looking at the dense swarm of insects, his pupils shrank suddenly and goosebumps appeared all over his body. Insect cultivator. You have actually awakened this talent. Forbidden warriors, everyone will kill them if they find them. After being caught off guard and shocked, Du Hongtian, who was in the air control realm, recovered his mentality in an instant, and his speed increased sharply again to kill. What about bugs? My own strength can completely resist the eating. Once I deal with the insect controller, everything will be fine. Although he thought so in his heart, Du Hongtian did not dare to be careless at all. The spiritual energy in the body surged crazily, and several layers of defensive shields were placed around the body, like a red mecha. Fire! Lu Chen flashed, appeared in the corner, and distanced himself. As the order is issued, a group of blood-eating insects suddenly turned into flames and began to burn the spiritual energy shield on Du Hongtian's body. The spiritual power inspired by the master of the sky control realm began to collapse like ice and snow, but was quickly replenished by spiritual power. Flame and spiritual power are in a stalemate. But as the area covered by the flames became larger and larger, Du Hongtian's expression changed, and a trace of panic rose in his heart. What kind of bug is this? Now, his entire body was completely surrounded by a swarm of blood-eating insects in the form of flames, and he looked extremely terrifying. No matter how you counterattack, it cannot be extinguished. As the top decision-maker of the Du family and a strong man in the air control realm, Lu Chen arranged the most blood-eating insects for him, almost wrapping him into a giant flame cocoon. Even if he has the ability to control the air, he is still greatly hindered at this time. Ah, boy, go to hell. Du Hongtian simply ignored it and continued to rush towards Lu Chen with a low roar. At the same time, he squeezed himself again and used the excess spiritual power to form a net, blocking Lu Chen's movement range. When dealing with beast control warriors, as long as the master is killed, the beast control will basically lose its ability. If I kill you, not only will the Du family be safe and sound, but they will also move to a higher level. It is not impossible to replace the Sun family. Forbidden warrior, how many years has it been since Daxia? This is a feat from heaven. Lu Chen looked straight at him and ignored his words. Until Du Hongtian came again and sealed the space around him, he sighed and said, the destructive effect of flames on Gang Jin is okay, but the speed is too slow. It seems that it needs to be strengthened. Okay, let's move on to the second item. Lu Chen looked calm. He quickly used the earth step movement to distance himself, and continued to speak. Insect explosion. Although there is Shaolin's celestial guardian, it's better to be careful and never get close. The words just fell. The flames covering Du Hongtian's body immediately flew into the distance, and at the same time, 100 new blood-eating insects filled in from outside. Seeing this scene, although Du Hongtian didn't know what would happen, his heart suddenly tightened. A huge feeling of fear came over him, making him jealous. Suddenly, there were explosive sounds in my ears, one after another, and severe pain came from all parts of my body. Before he could react, he felt a lightness in his lower body, and then his perspective became uncontrollably chaotic. First, he saw the ceiling of the hall, and then he saw the tattered lower half of his body as he fell. It was his own body. Aha! An unconscious sound came from the corner of his mouth, and Du Hongtian, who was half like a rag bag, lost his life. Lu Chen's eyes were bright, and he summarized the effect of the insect blast. To deal with the fourth level of the air control realm, 100 insect blasts are completely redundant. With reasonable arrangements, it is estimated that 60 will be enough. Hong Shuang has mentioned the self-destruction ability of blood-eating insects before. Now that I try it, it works surprisingly well. Okay, let's end it. A few seconds after the words fell, the remaining senior members of the Du family quickly lost their voices. Their highest level of cultivation was only in the fusion realm, and they were completely slaughtered in front of the tide of blood-devouring insects. Hongshuang, take some of the bug cubs out and clean up the direct lineage of the Du family's inner house. The little guy accepted the order and left happily with a large group of blood-eating insects. Now that you have done it, you must do it thoroughly. Avoid future troubles forever. Lu Chen has never been a saint in his 2 lives. He sat down again, lost in thought. This time he used the blood-eating worm swarm and obtained valuable data. In killing Du Hongtian, who is the 4th level of air control, nearly 1,400 insects died, which is within the acceptable range. If we can command in an orderly manner, the battle losses should be less. It's a pity. Neither Lu Chen nor Hong Shuang had the relevant talents. Currently, the blood-devouring worm's most effective attack method is its flame form, and its trump card is undoubtedly its self-destruction ability. If you want to deal with the sky control realm perfectly, a maximum of 1,000 will be enough. And a higher-level Grandmaster. Lu Chen shook his head, unable to weigh it. There is a saying in the martial arts world, under the master, everyone is an ant. When you reach that state, your strength has already undergone qualitative changes, and even your physical body will transform along with it. Because of this, there are some rumors among the people that once a warrior enters the Grandmaster realm, he will be a different species compared to humans. I haven't really seen the master's methods, but quantity makes a difference. 1,000 blood-eating worms can't kill the Grandmaster, but what about 10 million? Lu Chen shook his head and stopped thinking about it. His gaze fell on Du Hongtian's body, which was broken into several pieces, with a deep look. Forbidden warriors will be punished if everyone finds them. So, I am the forbidden warrior. Lu Chen had thought about this before when he awakened the Zerg dominance system. But now that I heard this unfamiliar word with my own ears, I felt a little bit of pressure. It seems that the martial arts world will indeed crack down on alien beings. Stay here for now, wait until you enter the Martial Arts Academy, and then search for relevant information. But having said that, we still need to breed the blood-eating insects for a few more generations, at least to create the 1.0 natural disaster version. He had previously spent all the Sun family's 5 billion funds on Dow derivatives. Let your strength improve by leaps and bounds. After tonight's battle, Lu Chen decided to shift his focus. And if he wants to realize his plan quickly, he must advance to the list of geniuses. Find wealth in danger. Only then can resources be obtained. Massive, terrible resource. Enough resources to cultivate hundreds of billions of insect cubs. After leaving Du's house through the side door, Lu Chen walked around to the main entrance area and slowly joined the crowd of spectators. In the distance behind him, fire filled the sky. One of the 4 major families in Linkang City, the Du family. It is being reduced to ashes in the raging flames. Chapter 51. The moon and stars were sparse, and the night became more intense. In the office of the Martial Arts Association, Chu Yuanlong's phone calls came one after another. There was a call from the Jiangnan Martial Arts Academy headquarters, telling him to keep Lu Chen and try to apply for Jiangnan Martial Arts Academy. There are also friends from other martial arts schools who are trying to win Lu Chen over by playing the emotional card. There are even some of Daxia's top chaebol who want to invest in Lu Chen. In short, as the information about Lu Chen's martial arts examination was exposed, various major forces were scrambling to get him to their side. It's a pity that Chu Yuanlong got there first. Although it was very late now, Chu Yuanlong had a smile on his face and was in a good mood. You old guys, last year you mocked Jiangnan Martial Arts Academy for not being able to recruit good talents, and now you all want to compete with me for Lu Chen. Dreaming. There are 9 top martial arts academies in the 8 major war zones of Daxia. There are 2 in the capital and 1 in each of the main bases in the other theaters. There is also intricate competition among these 9 major martial arts. No matter which base has a good talent, the admissions directors from other martial arts schools will rush over and offer superior conditions for the geniuses to choose. For decades, the 3 war zones of Beijing, Shanghai, and Guanghai have robbed the most people. There is no way, who makes other people rich. Because they couldn't compete with their opponents, and because of the special nature of this martial arts examination, Jiangnan Martial Arts Academy simply dispersed all the strong men and sent them to various acropolis in the Jiangnan Theater to supervise the examination and recruit people. If you can't recruit good talents from other war zones, forget it. You must get all the geniuses here. I didn't expect that not only Linkang City, but also the rest of the acropolis, there are many geniuses. A time of great strife. Chu Yuanlong sighed with emotion. Just as he was about to leave, the phone rang this time. After listening to a few words, he suddenly stood up, looked solemn, and left directly from the window. After a few minutes, looking at the raging flames below in the void, it was the Du family that had been slaughtered by Lu Chen. This little guy is quite murderous. But this is a trivial matter. The road to martial arts is the road to killing. Regarding Lu Chen's revenge against the Du family, to be honest, Chu Yuanlong didn't care, and even quite agreed. The philosophy of his sect is fundamentally about competing with people, the earth, and heaven. It talks about having clear thoughts. If someone messes with me, I will retaliate. This is normal. What really shocked Chu Yuanlong was that he handed the Du family's information to Lu Chen and then took action within an hour. If I remember correctly, should I let this whetstone of the Du family come back to the sky control realm? Looking at the fire below, Chu Yuanlong's eyes were filled with uncertainty. Du Hongtian, the head of the Du family, was truly at the 4th level of air control, and he was in his prime. How did Lu Chen kill him? It's impossible to do it with earth-level body skills. Could it be that he is hiding his strength? Chu Yuanlong suddenly remembered that there was a rumor that Lu Chenxi was a double awakener some time ago. One talent is domestication in the life system, which is of no great use. And another suspected talent is the fire element. But even with A-level fire talent, a transcendent can kill Yukong across 2 realms. Those perverts at the main base can't do it. The more he thought about it, the more doubts he became filled with. If the Du family had not been burned, he could still go down and look for some clues. But now, he can only infer on his own. Never mind. Why are you thinking so much? When we get to the main base, this little guy's secrets will be fully revealed. Thinking of this, Chu Yuanlong was quite looking forward to it. This feeling of slowly unraveling the mystery fascinated him. Just got home. Lu Chen took out his cell phone and looked at it. There were more than a dozen missed calls. There are Chu Yuanlong, a few people from the Sun family, and a few from Bai Weizhou. The news of the Du family's downfall spread so quickly. Lu Chen thought for a while, edited the information one by one, and informed everyone that they were safe. As for the Du family's affairs, he never mentioned it. Early the next morning, after sending a message to Sun Qi, Lu Chen originally planned to take a car there by himself. I didn't expect that guy to come and pick him up in person. In just 10 minutes, the roar of an engine that hit the street sounded in the community. Lu Chen stood under the unit building and watched Sun Qi control the sports car. It drifted and stopped in front of him, and his face suddenly darkened. This guy, what a slut. Brother Lu. Sun Qi got out of the car and walked over, smiling and saying, I heard that you have something to do with me. My father, my great-grandfather, and Aunt Shen Yan are all rushing back to their ancestral home from outside, waiting for your dispatch. Lu Chen was stunned. Is this battle too big? He was thinking last night that if he wanted to obtain comprehensive war information, it would be most appropriate to contact the Sun family. After all, although the development of martial arts in Linkang City is not very good, due to its geographical location, it is extremely rich in mineral resources. The Du family, which he had destroyed before, took care of the mining business for the big customers at the main base in the war zone. As the first family in Linkang City, the Sun family is naturally involved in a lot. You guys, aren't you embarrassing me? Lu Chen said feebly. I'm just looking up some information. Why did you bring Grandpa here? Lu Chen also knew about the old man from the Sun family. Sun Junyu, the 9th level of Yukong. For a long time, he was the #1 master in Linkang City. It is precisely because of his presence that the Sun family can go smoothly and firmly occupy the title of #1 in Linkang. Don't worry, my great-grandfather was born as a miner. In the entire Linkang City, no, in the entire Jiangnan war zone, no one knows more about war information than he does. Sun Qi opened the passenger door and smiled. Do you want me to say, Prince, please get in the car? Lu Chen, ha ha ha, Lu Shen, are you not a social person at all? Sun Qi chuckled and said, this is a bad joke on the internet. Girls like to let boys say, Princess, please get in the car. It's a pity that no girl dares to make such a request to me, Mr. Sun. More than 20 minutes later, the ancestral residence of the Sun family, in the reception room. All the senior officials of the Sun family are here, including Sun Junyu of the 9th level of Yukong, Sun Chenyan of the 3rd level of Yukong. At this moment, Mr. Sun Junyu personally received Lu Chen and took the initiative to make tea. He had already heard about the destruction of the Du family last night, and he was inevitably shocked. Although he had guessed that Lu Chen was going to attack the Du family on the day of the martial arts test. But when the news actually reached his ears, Sun Junyu still found it unbelievable. After all, Du Hongtian of the Du family was at the 4th level of the Sky Control Realm. He couldn't understand how Lu Chen won. Because of the unknown, Sun Junyu felt more and more that Lu Chen was immeasurable. But no matter what, his judgment of Lu Chen has once again been raised several notches. After a while of pleasantries, Sun Junyu finally got to the point. I heard from Sun Qi that Mr. Lu wants to know information about the ore. Yes, Senior Sun. Lu Chen sat upright, nodded and continued. I practice a technique that requires absorbing the power of ores to enhance its power. This rhetoric was something he had already thought of. It's logically reasonable and just fits my needs. Is this so? Sun Junyu pondered and said. Since the great changes in the world, the types of ores have expanded from more than 20 kinds to more than 100 kinds. Various kinds of ores can be subdivided. Taken together, there are extremely many kinds. At this point, he paused for a few breaths. After considering his words, he said again, forgive me for being presumptuous, but I would like to ask little friend Lu. What you mean by the power of absorbing ores? If you don't mean anything in particular, do I understand that it can be absorbed at will? Seeing Lu Chen nodding, Sun Junyu's eyes showed thoughts, but he did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the rest of the Sun family in the living room and asked them all to leave. After clearing the place, he stared at Lu Chen with burning eyes and asked, last question, does the ability of my friend's technique directly depend on the special properties of the ore? He suppressed the shock in his heart and tried to speak in a calm tone. If this is really the case, that would be extremely terrifying. Huang level skills, Zan level skills, etc. absolutely do not have this characteristic. At least the Earth level, and the extremely powerful techniques in the Earth level, can theoretically absorb the properties of ores and use them to enhance them. Earth level skills, that kind of existence is completely priceless. Places like Linkang City do not exist at all, and only the top forces at the main base exist. Because of this, Sun Junyu let the others go out just to be on the safe side. Seeing him acting like this, Lu Chen thought about it for a while and roughly understood the whole story. But he didn't care about that either. He replied seriously, it is indeed as Senior Sun said. I hope Senior will teach me how to make a choice. There are too many types of ores. Even if Lu Chen mastered all the information, it would probably take a huge amount of energy to select the ones most suitable for Xiaolan to devour. Now that the old man understands his needs, he can directly let the other party make suggestions. Let me think for a moment. Sun Junyu put down the teacup and closed his eyes slightly. Time passed gradually. 10 minutes later, the old man opened his eyes and said in a deep voice, "My little friend has given this decision to me. I have to think carefully. I have been waiting for a long time." Then, he continued, "According to what my friend said, there are 3 most suitable ores. First, Dragon Blood Stone. There are only 3 mines of this kind of ore in the entire Daxia. One of them happens to be in Linkang City. It is generally used to create top-level equipment. Its special ability is Strength Increase, high-grade Dragon Blood Stone, and even Dragon's Roar effect can interfere with the target's spirit." Quote. Lu Chen sat up straight, feeling shocked. Whether it's the increase in strength or the Dragon's Roar, they are all top-notch additional abilities. If he let the Sky Crystal insect eat him, he would definitely gain these 2 characteristics, and maybe there would be others that were even stronger. But the disadvantage is also obvious, that is, the number of Dragon Blood Stones is too small. There are only 3 mines in the entire Daxia. The output can be imagined. After all, what needs to be devoured is not just Xiaolan, but also a large number of offspring. And at this time, after Lu Chen digested it for a moment, Sun Junyu continued, "Second, mainly special zodiac ores, such as Explosive Stone, Thunder Stone, Sunda Wind Stone, etc. These ores all correspond to the 5 elements abilities, or elemental abilities, which are relatively powerful. In addition, the production scale is extremely large, and it is easy to obtain it in large quantities." After a brief narration, Sun Junyu said the third choice. "In fact, this last ore is my favorite. If I were in your shoes, I might choose it directly." Looking at Lu Chen's curious eyes, the old man didn't keep it a secret and said with a smile, "Magnet. This kind of ore is often used in daily life and is also used for equipment manufacturing, but not many because the disadvantages are too obvious. It will create a magnetic environment, affecting one's own senses and skills, etc. But what you just said, if it is only a need for skills, it seems to be able to perfectly shield the negative effects of magnets." Quote. Lu Chen's thoughts were instantly opened. Magnetic force. In a movie in the previous life, there was a classic character who had this ability, called Magneto. Known as one of the strongest mutants, his ability is almost unlimited. Manipulating metal is only the most basic. In addition, there are advanced applications such as increasing speed, controlling blood explosions, controlling energy, etc. Thinking of this, Lu Chen's heartbeat quietly accelerated. He almost couldn't wait to let Xiaolan start devouring and reproducing. Of course, although the ability to create and manipulate magnetic fields is powerful, it is still unknown whether all the characteristics can be developed. After all, this world is the era of martial arts. The physical structure and ability of warriors have greatly improved. It seems that Mr. Lu's idea is the same as mine, and he has made a choice." Sun Junyu said with a smile, "There are also many types of magnets, but the best one is black gold magnet. In addition to the basic magnetism, it also has the attribute of affecting the soul. If you need it, my Sun family still has some reserves. Just take as much as you need." In addition, Sun Junyu changed the subject and his expression suddenly became formal. "Mr. Lu, you are a person with great luck. Your future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. If you don't mind, the Sun family is willing to be a pawn." The old man has been cautious in his words and deeds throughout his life, leading the Sun family step by step. He has lived to more than 130 years old and has never done anything that cannot be controlled. But today, he decided to gamble. Bet on the future of the Sun family. As the first person to pay attention to Lu Chen, and also one of the most powerful people in Linkang City, he knows Lu Chen better than anyone else. Whether it is talent or talent, it is extremely terrifying. In addition, when dealing with the Du family, he was swift and resolute, cutting the grass and eradicating the roots. It is no exaggeration to say that Sun Junyu even feels that as long as Lu Chen grows up, he will definitely be a person who stirs up the situation in Daxia in the future. It's okay if we didn't meet, since we already have some friendship, of course we have to further consolidate it. At this time, looking at Lu Chen's thoughtful face, Sun Junyu, the 9th level of Yukong, even felt a little uneasy. Finally, after more than 10 breaths, Lu Chen said in a deep voice, "The Sun family has always taken care of me. Sun Qi and I are also good friends. What you said about letting me drive you is really embarrassing for me. I really don't deserve it. But, if I am lucky in the future, I will definitely never forget the kindness of the Sun family." After hearing this, Sun Junyu smiled, and the stone in his heart finally fell. He took out a key from his storage bag and handed it over. "This is the key to the black gold magnet warehouse. Xiaochen, you can go there anytime. Also, I will arrange for the staff over there to evacuate immediately so as not to disturb you." After Lu Chen left, Sun Junyu thought for a moment and called Sun Chenyan and others in. Today, the nominal head of the Sun family is Sun Chenyan. The old man has long stopped intervening in all matters. But at special moments, he definitely has the upper hand. 3 things. Sun Junyu stood up, and after glancing around, his eyes fell on Sun Chenyan again. First, from now on, the Sun family will be deeply bound to Lu Chen. The whole family will support him in everything he does. A simple sentence. It made several senior executives of the Sun family tremble. Luckily for Sun Chenyan, as Lu Chen's god-sister, she was somewhat understanding. So after hearing about this arrangement, I was still able to accept it. The remaining few looked at each other with confusion and solemnity in their eyes. After all, this decision, it is equivalent to making the entire Sun family become Lu Chen's subordinates. But frightened by the old man's always vigorous and resolute style, they hesitated to speak, and finally did not dare to speak. Second, gradually liquidate the assets in Linkang City and transfer them to the main base in the Zhongnan War Zone. The whole family will be relocated within half a year. Sun Junyu kept talking and finished the last 2 points directly. Third, only the working capital on the Sun family's books is reserved for necessary expenses, and the rest will be used to purchase Wujin Magnet throughout Daxia. 3 decisions. It directly changed the future of the Sun family completely. Ignoring everyone's mood, Sun Junyu asked everyone to leave, leaving only Sun Chenyan. He said with a smile, "Xiao Yan, the 3 things I just said are of great importance. If you find someone who is not cooperating or causing obstruction, you can kill him directly. It's better to go to the main base early." The old man sighed, not knowing what he was thinking of, and said with emotion, "I guess the past 2 years will be uneven." Sun Chenyan looked slightly startled and asked, "Are you referring to the front line?" There was a trace of worry in Sun Junyu's eyes. The gray mist seafront has been gradually unable to hold up in recent years. Not long ago, it was breached twice, and Yun's city in the Zhongnan War Zone was almost massacred. And if Yun's city is gone, behind us is Linkang City. Quote. Sun Chenyan was silent. Many messages are blocked. Ordinary people don't know, and even low-level warriors may not have access to it. Only Sun Junyu joined the army on the front line of the Grey Mist Sea when he was young. He met many comrades and had some sources of intelligence. There is a large warehouse park 5 or 6 miles north of Linkang City. The ore materials of all the major families are gathered here, which is about the same size as a small town. It was already noon when Lu Chen arrived. After verifying his identity at the guard post, he entered the park and soon found the Sun family warehouse. When you open the door and walk in, you will see 7 or 8 hills of raw ore, nearly 20 meters high. They are all black gold magnet. Under Sun Junyu's arrangement, the staff here had been emptied, and even the monitoring equipment had been destroyed, leaving Lu Chen alone. Then let's get started. After calling out Shaolin, the little guy immediately realized that this was a delicious meal prepared for him. His eyes burst into light, and he said incoherently, Father, are these all for me to eat?" For sky crystal insects, their diet is extremely wide and they can even swallow the soil on the ground. But the ingredients are also graded. In his perception, the piles of black gold magnets in front of him were simply delicacies. "Yes, didn't I say we had a big meal yesterday?" Lu Chen smiled and continued, "Devouring and reproducing at the same time, let me see how the speed is. In 2 days, Chu Yuanlong will take him to the main base in the war zone. If all the raw ore here can be digested, transportation costs can be saved." "Okay, Father." Woohoo! Xiaolan cheered and immediately rushed to the nearest pile of black gold magnets. Under Lu Chen's gaze, around the little guy, silk threads, similar to the skin color suddenly appeared, like tentacles, intertwined with each other and turned into a flake. Overall, it is about the size of a basketball, shaped like a net bag, and covers the stone mine in front of it. Each silk thread seems to have countless tiny microvilli, which are fixed on the surface of the stone like a suction cup and start sucking. The whole net bag suddenly lit up. As if there was electricity, there were light blue energy pulses visible to the naked eye, conducted from the silk threads and into Xiaolan's body. In just 10 seconds, the black gold magnet or the size of a basketball was swallowed up, and the remaining useless residue turned into powder and scattered. Good times, good times. The little guy muttered happily to himself and repeated the previous operation again. At the same time, after devouring the first wave, following Lu Chen's instructions, 10 daughter bodies were reproduced first. After the child was born, he unconditionally obeyed Xiaolan and Lu Chen and also began to devour them. This speed, Lu Chen's eyes lit up and he was greatly surprised. He was a little worried before that he wouldn't be able to digest the black gold magnet in this warehouse, but he didn't expect it to be so fast. That's all. The number of sky crystal insects is increasing, and their devouring speed is getting faster and faster. In less than 10 minutes, the first rough stone mine was empty, leaving only useless ashes on the ground. By this time, the number of Tianjing insect bodies had reached more than 30,000. Lu Chen took a deep breath and waited silently. After all, as you get to the back, the number of sky crystal insect swarms will increase exponentially, and the speed of devouring them will also soar. At this moment, the entire Wujin magnet or warehouse has become a blue ocean. The source of light is none other than sky crystal insects. They are all weaving webs, all are devouring, and all are receiving the transportation of ore energy. Another 7 minutes passed. The 8 Wujin magnet mines were completely destroyed. Lu Chen took a deep breath, his eyes burst out with blazing light, and he whispered softly, "Let's begin." He stretched out his hands as if to hug something. In an instant, a swarm of 840,000 sky crystal insects flew towards him with their wings flying in streaks of blue light. At a glance, it looks like a blue ocean, full of fantasy. After all the sky crystal insects were integrated into his body, Lu Chen's figure remained unchanged. But the skin membrane, muscles, and even the outermost stratum corneum are constantly trembling slightly. It seems like he is adapting. Looking carefully, there seems to be another layer of light blue protective crystal wall beneath the outermost skin of the body. In terms of strength, there is no change, but the defense. After Lu Chen felt it, he took out the alloy sword directly from the storage bag and slashed at his left arm with all his strength. Bang! A sharp and harsh sound sounded, like metal slamming. There was only a slight numbness on the arm, leaving a white mark, but it returned to normal in an instant. And there were tiny cracks on the alloy sword held in his right hand. I am now at the first level of fusion aperture. I can bombard with all my strength and cannot break through the defense at all. Moreover, the huge backlash even caused the alloy sword to be scrapped. Is this the defensive capability brought by the 840,000 sky crystal insects? How horrible! Lu Chen didn't even know where his limit was. The improvement of defense is only the most basic characteristic brought about by the possession of the sky crystal insect. More importantly, it is the ability to correspond to the ore. Opening the panel, Lu Chen found that in addition to domestication among his talent attributes, there was one more. Wujin Yuan Magnet. Wujin Yuan Magnet. Level 1. The upper limit of this physique is level 4. Level 1 is 500,000 sky crystal insects, level 2 is 5 million, level 3 is 50 million, level 4 is 500 million. Explanation. Transformed from the sky crystal insect swallowing the black gold magnet. After leveling up, the corresponding abilities will be strengthened. Ability: Yuan Magnetic Control, Soul Magnetic Storm. Zhongnan Theater, main base. This huge city, home to 200 million people, is an extremely complex complex. Martial arts, technology, high-rise buildings, slums. All kinds of different things present a strange harmony here. At this moment, in a KTV in a slum business district, explosive music was playing freely. Even during the day, The dance floor was crowded with people of all kinds, twisting their bodies wildly and forgetting themselves. In the booth in the rest area, a young man with yellow hair and flashy clothes was shaking his head, intoxicated to the rhythm of the music. Around him, there were several scantily clad girls playing small games. People who come to places like this to spend money are basically ordinary people. After all, a warrior's time is extremely precious, and he would not engage in such boring pastimes. In the dim space, a middle-aged man walked slowly and stopped in front of the booth of the yellow-haired young man, with a respectful look on his face. "You guys should step back first." Huang Mao waved his hand, and the girls all stood up and left in a sensible manner. "Master, the matter has been settled." The middle-aged man turned a blind eye to this. After the others left, he walked up to the young man and lowered his voice and continued, "The people on the other side of the Grey Mist Sea will cooperate with our actions and increase our offensive." When the young man heard this, he shrugged, as if he had already guessed the result. He leaned forward, picked up the red wine on the table, tasted it slowly and replied, "Intensify the offensive." This kind of vain reply is no different from buck passing. Hey, those alien races are not so easy to fool, they still have to give them some benefits. Uncle Fang, please make another trip and bring them what we discussed before. This should be done. It seems that some pictures have come to mind. The yellow-haired young man shook his wine glass and said to himself, "The high-level strongmen from the Grey Mist Sea are taking action, and the strongmen sent by the Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy to the David City will definitely go to support. And at that time, it's our show time. Tisk, 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 there are no strong men to escort you back to the war zone base. Those talented young people selected from various places should be fun to kill, right? Drink all the red wine in the glass." The yellow-haired young man licked the corner of his mouth and asked, "Uncle Fang, do you have any other plans for the church recently?" The middle-aged man shook his head and replied, "The focus of the church is still on the list of geniuses. In the Zhongnan War Zone, your eldest brother and the 12th sister have been arranged to fake their identities and participate in the selection of the list of geniuses." Tisk, tisk, tisk. Huang Mao's eyes flashed with excitement. That guy, the boss, has his eyes set high above his head, and he actually went to participate in that genius list. Isn't this a proper abuse of food? The Zhongnan War Zone, the Far East area, is a long coastline. Compared with before the great change of heaven and earth, today's sea area has completely become a deserted area and is an inaccessible restricted area. Above the sea, there is a thick gray mist floating all year round. Therefore, it is also called the Sea of Gray Fog. In that forbidden land, in addition to the sea beasts originating from under the sea, other powerful ferocious beasts were also born, and they would attack the borders of Daxia from time to time. During hundreds of years of resistance, the Zhongnan Theater established a defensive front stretching for tens of thousands of miles along the coastline. In many places where the war was the most serious, war fortresses of various sizes were built. Large fortresses will have millions of soldiers, and small ones will have hundreds of thousands. Among them are ordinary soldiers and warrior legions. Just like Sun Junyu from the Sun family in Linkang City, he joined the warrior corps when he was young and fought here. It was by relying on the accumulated merits in exchange for the initial startup capital that the Sun family could be established in Linkang City and take root. At this moment, in Fortress Number 0 in the central area of the front, a video conference was being held in a large conference room. No one of the generals of the 108 fortresses was absent, and their faces all appeared on the screen. There was a hint of solemnity on everyone's face. In the conference room, a middle-aged man with gray temples and wearing a military uniform was saying, "According to the detection results, a tide of beasts seems to be gathering in the depths of the Grey Mist Sea. If nothing else happens, a war may break out. Everyone, please be prepared. If you find any unexpected situation, please contact me as soon as possible. Untie it and let me tell you the areas that may be attacked. Fortress Number 14, Suspected Beast Tide Level, Fierce Level. Prepare protection immediately. Pay attention to real-time detection of intelligence. Fortress Number 29, Suspected Beast Tide Level, Disaster Level. All personnel are ready to fight at any time. In addition, I will mobilize manpower from other fortresses and cities to go there urgently. Linkang City, Qingsong Cemetery. The inaccessible white stone path is paved with a layer of yellow dead leaves, and neat mason pine trees are on both sides, swaying slightly in the bleak autumn wind. The last few leaves are also falling and becoming bare. Xiaochen, Uncle Bai is really happy for you that you have made it this far. Bai Weizhou, as always had a gentle smile on his face in front of Lu Chen. He was not wearing a military uniform, but an ordinary brown windbreaker, and he was holding a bag with items for worship in it. Earlier, Lu Chen had planned to come to the house in person to meet with Uncle Bai. Unexpectedly, the latter changed places and arranged to meet here. Lu Chen has always been full of respect and warmth for Bai Weizhou. This father's old comrade in arms really cared for him, even to the point of doting on him. Not an exaggeration. Since the death of Lu Chen's parents, Bai Weizhou has been running to Lu Chen's house every 3 days, spending more time with Lu Chen than with his own daughter Bai Chuning. And, when I first knew that I was going to take the martial arts exam, when no one supported him, Bai Weizhou didn't say anything unnecessary. He spent most of his life's achievements in exchange for 3 body slew pills and gave them to Lu Chen. Lu Chen always kept this kind of care and kindness in his heart. Of course, if Bai Chuning didn't always do this and that, the relationship between the two families would be better. Thoughts swirled in my heart. Lu Chen smiled and replied, "Hee, I was just lucky. After all, it was the body slew pill you gave me that gave me some opportunities to get the first place in Linkang City's martial arts examination." Quote. Bai Weizhou pretended to glare at him, shook his head and said, "Whatever luck or lack of luck is all due to your own strength. It's all earned through your hard work." Lu Chen responded with shyness. But he thought secretly in his heart, "There is nothing wrong with what Uncle Bai said, it is indeed the result of my hard work. Try your best to cheat." Now, after relying on the sky crystal insect and obtaining the Wujin Yuan magnet, Lu Chen's strength has skyrocketed again. Even without using the blood-devouring insect legion, I can kill a master of Du Hongtian's level by myself. And this is only Lu Chenming's ability on the surface. His biggest trump card now is that in addition to the self-destruction of bloodthirsty insects, he also has a super defense. Behind Lu Chen, in order to test his limits, he directly found Sun Junyu. Let the other party attack you. After all-round experiments, Lu Chen also gained a comprehensive understanding of his own defense. The 9th level of Yukong can use all its strength to break through the defense, but it will not cause serious injuries, and it will heal in a very short time. This means that his defense can withstand Grandmaster level attacks. Lu Chen remembered clearly. At that time, Mr. Sun Junyu went from being confused at the beginning, to shock, to confusion, to silence. Finally, he spat out a few words, "Awesome, don't irritate me next time." Whenever he thinks of the old man's little expression, Lu Chen always finds it funny. And at this time, Bai Weizhou stopped and said softly, "We're here." Lu Chen looked at the tombstone in front of him. On it was a photo of his parents. Green Pine Cemetery is no ordinary place. Those who can be buried here are all civil servants of the Linkang City military. Xiao Chen, your parents and I have been friends for more than 30 years. We have known each other since childhood. We joined the army together and joined the Linkang City garrison. Back then, your father and I pursued your mother together. Unfortunately, I was slightly inferior in appearance. Quote. Bai Weizhou seemed to be talking to Lu Chen, or to himself. Lu Chen, who was next to him, heard these breaking news, and his heart was filled with a burning fire of gossip. Unfortunately, Uncle Bai stopped at the relevant parts and didn't say much. Another moment passed. Bai Weizhou asked Lu Chen to take out all the paper money and burn it together. Xiao Chen, you have grown up. Uncle Bai has nothing to teach you and nothing to help you. I just hope you remember. As if murmuring, he looked at the photo on the tombstone and said softly, "The road to martial arts is not easy. You must stick to your heart. As long as you are right, stick to it. The world will always recognize you." Right, my transfer order has come down. You are going to the Grey Mist seafront soon. You will go to the main base the day after tomorrow. I can't see you off. Please pay attention to your own safety. The development of things will always deviate from the original expectations. On the 4th day after the martial arts exam, it was supposed to be led by Chu Yuanlong to escort the top 10 candidates from Linkang City to the main base of the war zone. But a war suddenly broke out on the Grey Fog Sea front. And unlike the previous single-point beast tide, this large-scale outbreak was distributed in more than 10 places, all of which were at a disaster level. Among them, the number of high-level beasts was several times more. As soon as the battle between the two sides began, several war fortresses could not hold on and urgently needed support. Even if it dragged on, the war would be corrupted and the Grey Fog Sea beast tide would surge into the inland. By then, it would be extremely tragic. At the critical moment, the top level of the war zone immediately began to make arrangements and dispatched strong men to support. At the same time, some personnel from the garrison troops of each David city were transferred to rush to the scene urgently, such as Bai Weijo, who was one of the dispatchers from Linkang City. However, this is not over yet. As the war continued to intensify, the number of masters was still insufficient. Even the personnel in charge of the military examinations in the major cities received an emergency transfer order. Chu Yuanlong in Linkang City rushed to the Grey Fog Sea front before he even had time to explain the follow-up to Lu Chen. He handed the escort mission to others. So, we have to wait 2 days to go to the main base of the war zone with the qualifiers from several surrounding cities. In the antique study, Lu Chen took a bite of an apple and asked vaguely. Behind the desk opposite him, old man Sun Junyu was holding a brush and practicing calligraphy. On the white rice paper, a few big cursive characters were written crookedly. Maybe there is some beauty, but Lu Chen can't appreciate it. Yes, we were supposed to set off today, escorted by Senior Chu to the main base, but now it has to be the day after tomorrow. Sun Junyu kept writing, and continued, according to the plan, due to the importance of the Tianzhou list, there will be 72 grandmasters leading the 72 acropolises in the entire Jiangnan war zone, but now there are only 8. With the main base as the center, the 8 directions, starting from the farthest city, the grandmasters there will bring the promoted along the way to the main base together. There are only 6 cities on this line of Linkang City, and the number of people is less than other routes. Lu Chen nodded. He didn't care much about the arrangement of this matter. After all, the person leading the escort is still a grandmaster, but there are more geniuses under his command. Although the entire Jiangnan war zone is vast, but due to the inspections of powerful people such as the demon suppression envoy, the safety is not bad. At this time, seeing that Lu Chen did not answer, Sun Junyu thought that he was worried and smiled softly. Don't worry, although the outside of the city is full of dangers, there are often caravans passing through those fixed routes, and the surrounding beasts will also be cleared out by people, so there is no big problem. And the old man raised his head, with a strange look on his face, and continued, your current strength is basically invincible below the Grandmaster. Even if you can't beat him, you can definitely run away. Recalling yesterday's experiment, Sun Junyu still found it incredible. In this world, there are actually warriors in the Rongqiao realm who can withstand the attack of the Grandmaster. No one would believe it if I told them out. Think about yourself, you are more than 130 years old, and you have been practicing martial arts for more than 100 years. Although you are only one step away from the Grandmaster, you are still stuck at the 9th level of Yukong. Compared with Lu Chen, I have lived like a dog for most of my life. There is really no comparison. I get angry just thinking about it. It was like he had worked hard for 100 years, but it was completely meaningless. After muttering to himself for a while, Sun Junyu adjusted his mentality and bent down to blow the ink on the rice paper dry. He picked it up with both hands and asked Lu Chen with a smug look, how is it? I am not as strong as you, but this character is definitely at the top level. In Linkang City, it is hard to find at a high price. Lu Chen looked over and tried to identify it for a few seconds. After recognizing the 4 big cursive characters above, he read them out softly, you. He gave a thumbs up and praised. The old man is vulgar and elegant, and this state of mind is worth learning from. But suddenly he found out. Sun Junyu in front of him looked resentful and stared at him. These 4 characters are Spring Pond Autumn Rhyme. Lu Chen, you are going too far. Seeing that the old man seemed to be broken, Lu Chen hurriedly smiled and apologized. After chatting for a few more sentences, he suddenly asked, last time you said that when you were young, you also went to the battlefield on the other side of the Grey Fog Sea. Ask yourself, Lu Chen is really interested in the front line. Fierce beasts are a disaster for others. But for him, they are the best food. If the blood-sucking insect army can be released to devour in a large-scale beast tide, I am afraid that it will be able to reproduce rapidly in a short time. Of course, there are also great risks. At least the strong men on the side of the ferocious beast will never let it go. And his identity as a forbidden warrior is also very likely to be exposed. Why, you kid also want to go to the front line to make achievements? After Sun Junyu sneered, he suddenly fell silent. With reminiscence in his eyes, his thoughts drifted to who knows where. After a long time, he shook his head and sighed, that place is a meat grinder. People are dying every moment. Especially when the beast tide breaks out, there are really too many people who die. Whether it is an ordinary soldier or a martial arts master, they may die at any time. I was in my 20s, full of enthusiasm, and had just entered the Rongchao realm. I wanted to make achievements and earn some merits to exchange for some money. After signing up for the war, I was assigned to a company with more than 400 other free warriors. Do you know how many people were still alive after the war? Sun Junyu looked dim and smiled bitterly. Including me, only 13 are still alive. It's miserable, it's really miserable. Lu Chen was silent. Martial Arts Era, September 21, 581. Although it was just autumn, the temperature dropped quickly. It was still cold at nearly 10 o'clock in the morning. The landscape trees on both sides of the road were bare and withered. But the number of people on the street remained the same. Neither the temperature nor the stalemate on the gray fog seafront affected Linkang City. After getting out of the vehicle, Lu Chen and 10 other advanced players had arrived at the East Gate. Today, the escort will pass by here and take them to the main base of the Zhongnan War Zone. The one leading Lu Chen and others at this time is Yang Zhen, the president of the Linkang City Martial Arts Association. He looked at the 10 genius seeds in front of him and didn't say much, but said seriously, there are 2 people responsible for escorting you this time, both of them are strong, remember to be respectful. The leader is Song Kaifeng, a master of the 3rd level, from the Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy. The deputy is Li Mengyan, a 9th level flying master, from the Li family in Yun City, and was hired by the official to participate in the escort. After a brief introduction, Yang Zhen's expression slowed down, with encouragement in his eyes. You all know more or less about the Tianzhou list. Whether you rise to prominence or sigh in despair, it's all your own fate. In short, good luck to you. Just as Yang Zhen finished speaking, the ground suddenly shook, and several huge beasts approached at high speed from the distance on the road outside the city, like several small mountains rushing towards them. Ah! Behind Lu Chen, a girl screamed in fear. Sun Qi, who was standing next to him, curled his lips and muttered, you are surprised by what you have seen. You are so brave and you are a genius. Don't panic, that's the escort team. Yang Zhen looked over there and continued, I can only take you here. When you arrive at the main base, remember to report your safety. There were 4 beasts in the distance on the road. 5 or 6 meters long, about 3 meters high, with a very flat back, and even a soft seat and windshield installed. Camel rhinoceros, Lu Chen thought to himself. This kind of beast, I have learned about in class. It has a gentle temperament, is very easy to tame, and can carry an amazing amount of weight, and is often used in caravans. At this time, among the 4 camel rhinoceroses, the leading one had 2 people sitting on it. It was Song Kaifeng, who was in charge of the escort, and he was a 3rd level master. And Li Mengyan from the Li family in Yun City, a female warrior, who was at the 9th level of the sky flying skill. There were barely 20 people sitting on the 2nd camel rhino behind him, all of whom were geniuses from other cities who had obtained the qualification to advance. The remaining 2 camel rhinos were still empty. At this time, after arriving not far from Lu Chen and others, the camel rhino team stopped. Song Kaifeng flew down, signed with Yang Zhen, and then looked at the 10 promoted seeds from Linkang City. His eyes stayed on Lu Chen for a few more seconds, and he nodded kindly. Sorry to bother Commander Yang. Leave the rest to me. Although he was a master-level cultivator, Song Kaifeng's attitude was extremely gentle. After greeting Yang Zhen, he walked to the 3rd camel rhino and patted its neck. The camel rhino snorted, lay lazily on the ground, and the soft ladder on its body was also put down. Okay, we don't need supplies here for the time being, you guys go up. Under his arrangement, Lu Chen and his 10 companions boarded the camel rhinos back one after another. After arriving on top, the ground under their feet seemed to be some kind of plastic, which was extremely flat and there was no discomfort when stepping on it. In addition to rows of soft seats in front of them, there were also several small dining tables with fruits and other snacks on them. Sun Qi chose the row of seats at the front, and asked Lin Shui to sit in the innermost, Lu Chen in the middle, and himself on the outermost side of the corridor. After everything was stable, the escort team began to move forward. A rumbling sound came from my ears. That was the camel rhino running. Except for a slight bump, there was no other shortcomings. Lu Chen was amazed in his heart, secretly saying that it was more comfortable than the high-speed rail in his previous life. Maybe a little behind in speed, but still very fast. Yulinkang City's qualifiers have just joined the team. Let me briefly say a few things. In the front, Song Kaifeng stood up. The sound was transmitted directly to the ears of Lu Chen and others through the force. The first point. It is about 3 days away from the main base of the war zone. The journey in the wild is boring, so everyone should be mentally prepared. The second point. Take a break twice a day, at noon and 6 in the afternoon. Don't rush at night, set up camp and rest. As for the last point. Song Kaifeng paused slightly, and his expression became formal. If you encounter danger, don't panic. Deputy Captain Li and I will solve it. It seems that he is afraid of scaring everyone. He smiled gently again. Of course, the road we take is the caravan pass, and there are often strong people cleaning it, so there will generally be no accidents. After a brief explanation, Song Kaifeng sat back. The camel rhino began to accelerate, almost maintaining 200 kilometers per hour. Beside Lu Chen, Sun Qi's eyes were shining, staring at the front without blinking. Suddenly, she turned sideways, touched Lu Chen with her arm, and lowered her voice and laughed. Brother Lu, do you want to hear some gossip? Lin Shui, who was sitting in the innermost, was sitting next to Lu Chen. She was originally very reserved. After sitting down, she pretended to look outside to hide her nervousness. She was originally socially anxious and not good at speaking. Although she was already familiar with Lu Chen and Sun Qi, she still couldn't let go. At this time, she heard Sun Qi's whispered words, although she didn't come over, but she tried to focus on the conversation between the two without leaving any trace. For girls, there is nothing in the world that is more attractive than gossip. Why, did you find the point? Lu Chen replied casually. He actually didn't have much interest. After all, in his mind, he could chat with Hong Shuang at any time. In addition, when the little guy was bored, he would pull Xiaolan to whisper, and tell some embarrassing things about Lu Chen as a bug. He didn't know that Lu Chen, as the group leader, could peek at the screen at any time. Of course, he would not say it out loud, just treat it as a joke. After blocking the group chat in his mind, he heard Sun Qi's voice lowered again, excitedly saying, it's the 2 escorts. They are having an affair. Lu Chen, Lin Shui's heart, can I hear this? Should I cover my ears? No, I'm watching outside, they don't know I'm listening. He, I've been observing for a long time. Sun Qi's eyes were bright, and he said with saliva flying, didn't you notice that Li Mengyan from the Li family has been trying to please Master Song, and his methods are extremely clever. Just like just now, after Grandmaster Song finished speaking to us, just as he sat down, Li Mengyan handed over a peeled grape. And please be careful and pay attention. Although the two of them are sitting next to each other, every time Li Mengyan pulls Grandmaster Song to talk, he will unconsciously squeeze his body to the side in order to get closer. I can post it. Lu Chen's eyes widened and he looked at Sun Qi in disbelief. What the hell is this, Sherlock Holmes? In his previous life, Sun Qi would have been able to work as a cheating investigator and earn at least $1 million a year. At the same time, he also quietly observed for a moment and found that it was exactly as Sun Qi said. Lin Shui next to her also wanted to look ahead. But if she really did this, wouldn't it expose her eavesdropping? No, you have to hold it back. Lin Shui, you can do it. How about it? What I said, young Master Sun, is right. Sun Qi said with a proud smile. Lu Chen gave this a thumbs up. In my ears, I heard young Master Sun continuing to say, do you think we should remind Grandmaster Song? I feel that he is just a young boy, and he has probably never been in love, and that woman from the Li family is of a very high rank. It looks like he has been through a lot of battles. If this continues, I'm afraid the bad woman will succeed. Alas, Grandmaster, do you really only know how to practice? You are being treated as a traitor and you don't even know it. Sun Qi mourned his misfortune and was angry that he would not fight. He said that he would remind him, but he would definitely not really do it, so he could only continue to watch. At this time, Lu Chen suddenly said quietly, "How did I hear that, Mr. Sun? You are also a young child and have never held a girl's hand." Sun Qi's expression suddenly seemed like phlegm was stuck in his throat. "Nonsense. My great eldest son, Mr. Sun, is loved by everyone and blooms like a flower. Who the hell is spreading rumors about me? Oh, it's your aunt, Sun Chenyan. Sun Qi. There is a hidden place in the mountains and wilderness." The two men in black robes seemed to be discussing something, and Lu Chen's name was mentioned from time to time. At this moment, a man in gray robe came from a distance. Report to the two envoys. After bowing respectfully, he continued, "I just received news from the agent, saying that the conditions are ripe and we can take action at any time." With that said, he handed over the specific information content. After checking it out, the two black robes were very surprised. "That's great. The Li family's secret move really played a key role." One of the men in black robe said, "The number 4 line we are responsible for may be the first to complete the task. The reward must be extremely generous." The other envoy nodded and said, "I was a little skeptical about letting Li Mengyan be the agent, but I didn't expect that she could use this method to make Song Kaifeng lose his guard." The two communicated for a while. After finalizing the details, we decided to take action tomorrow afternoon when the escort team is taking a break. With a thunderous strike, the genius seedlings on this line were destroyed. The day's journey was uneventful and nothing happened. Take a break each at noon and evening. We stopped at a station on the commercial road, and after a good night's sleep, we started our journey the next day. At the beginning, everyone was still very excited. They kept looking outside and were even surprised when they saw some strange and ferocious beasts. But later on, I lost interest. Staying on the back of a rhinoceros all day long would indeed make you feel bored. Fortunately for Lu Chen, he could chat with the 3 bugs in the group chat in his mind, and he could still sit still and continue practicing after being closed to the group. But with Sun Qi's impetuous temper, he couldn't sit still at all. After he invited Lu Chen to no avail, he went to the back to play cards with several other geniuses from Linkang City. And he just left not long ago. Lin Shui, who was sitting in the back, struggled for a long time and finally plucked up the courage to poke Lu Chen's arm with her finger and handed over a box of cakes. His face was red, he didn't dare to look directly at Lu Chen, and he stammered, "Eat breakfast. This pastry is not bad, I bought more." What a lame excuse. A smile appeared on Lu Chen's lips, and he took the things over, "Thank you." After tasting it, he praised again, "It tastes very good." Lin Shui's nervousness immediately dissipated a lot, and she also chuckled, her eyes curled into crescent moons. He raised his head and was about to say something. But he found that Sun Qi had left and returned without knowing when, and was standing behind Lu Chen with a complicated expression on his face. "Why, isn't it time to have breakfast while I'm here? Don't I deserve breakfast? Doesn't it mean that if I buy too much, it won't be enough for me?" Snort. It's okay not to eat this dog food. He felt sad in his heart, and when he saw Lu Chen turning his head to look over, his face suddenly showed a nonchalant expression. He forced a smile and said, "It's okay, you guys eat slowly, I'm not hungry, I'm really not hungry at all." After saying that, he immediately turned around and walked to the back, leaving a desolate figure behind. When such an unexpected incident happened, Lin Shui became an ostrich again and did not dare to say anything to Lu Chen. "But I am still very happy. After all, she actually made this pastry herself." Time passed gradually, and Sun Qi was very sensible and did not come back to be a light bulb. But Lu Chen was also too lazy to speak, and was focusing on his own cultivation. At 10 o'clock noon, the escort team arrived at the 3rd city on this route, Lian City. There was still no supply entering the city. After Song Kaifeng handed over and signed the contract with the other party, he took the 10 talented seedlings here and continued on the road. Late afternoon. It was getting dark. After a brief rest for half an hour, Song Kaifeng ordered to set off, trying to get to the next business road station before it got completely dark. During the day, everyone was still talking and laughing. But at night, I felt depressing. There's no way around it, it's always particularly scary outside the city at night. In the high mountains on both sides of the commercial road, the roars of huge beasts never stopped, rising and falling one after another. Moreover, there cannot be any lighting equipment on the back of the camel rhinoceros at night. Otherwise, ferocious beasts will definitely be attracted. Although Song Kaifeng is here, he can handle it, but this kind of trouble should be avoided as little as possible. Another half hour passed. The escort team finally arrived at the inn, but all they could see was ruins. The expressions on the faces of Song Kaifeng and Li Mengyan became solemn. The latter said softly, "Feng, look at the students, I'll go investigate." After saying that, he gave the other party a reassuring look and went directly to Yukong. After investigating for a while, Li Mengyan came to the camel rhinoceros team and reported to Song Kaifeng, "It is estimated to be 2 or 3 days old. Judging from the footprints on the ground, they should have been washed away by ferocious beasts, not man-made." Song Kaifeng nodded, the worries in his heart disappeared, and said softly, "Thank you for your hard work, Mengyan, come up first." Behind him, Sun Qi looked over there with bright eyes. As if explaining, he gossiped in a lowered voice, "I have used nicknames, this woman has finally succeeded. Grandmaster Song is already attracted to her, and he even cares about her at any time. Tisk, 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 even a straight man will understand. Ah." Lu Chen pouted, too lazy to care about this. Anyway, today is already the second day, and we should be able to reach the main base of the theater before tomorrow night. Lin Shui, who was next to her, was looking straight ahead under the cover of the night, quite interested in these gossips. "Students, let me briefly explain the situation." Song Kaifeng's voice came over and he continued, "The inn here was attacked and destroyed by a ferocious beast. It will be hard for everyone tonight, so we have to camp. It's right behind the inn." He led the camel rhinoceros team around from the side road and arrived at the designated location. With our back against a steep cliff and a stream next to us, we began to make arrangements to set up camp. There is a large flat area on the ground with tent rings installed, which is an area specially used for camping. After all, there are too many ferocious beasts in the wild, and the station will occasionally be destroyed. The caravans coming and going cannot move forward in the dark and can only rest and recuperate on the spot. Considering this, the equipment in the corresponding area has also been equipped. With everyone working together, the tents were quickly set up. After Song Kaifeng finished checking everything, he sprinkled several layers of animal repellent powder on the outside, and threw out several ball devices. They rolled further and then spread out on their own to provide early warning. All the work was done, and his face relaxed. After coming to the crowd, he smiled gently and said, "If you spend the night in the wild in the future, you must take all kinds of protection and warnings to be prepared for any eventuality. If you are interested, I can tell you about my experience." As soon as the voice fell, the 30 geniuses from the 3 cities all sat down cross-legged with excitement. If the environment was not suitable, someone would have cheered and shouted. After all, it was a master's class. These genius seedlings from the Acropolis would never have had such treatment before. Song Kaifeng also sat down and began to impart his experience of survival in the wild in the vast night. Lu Chen sat in the crowd and listened very carefully. Some of them were learned in textbooks, and more of them were summarized by the master-level strongmen themselves, which could save lives at critical moments. After saying part of it, Li Mengyan suddenly stood up and said softly, "I'm going to go to the bathroom. Are there any girls coming with me?" Swish. Several figures stood up immediately and followed Li Mengyan to a remote place. Song Kaifeng also said at the right time, "If we boys need to relieve ourselves, we can go over there. Remember to come back quickly." Lu Chen was pulled by Sun Qi and walked to the other side with several boys. After the floodgates were opened, Sun Qi saw that everyone else had left first, and whispered to Lu Chen in a low voice, "I take back what I said before. Li Mengyan from the Li family seems to be pretty good. Although she used some tricks on Master Song, at least her character is okay." "Oh, I thought she was a bad woman, but now it seems that there is nothing wrong with using some tricks to find a good home for herself. Young Master Sun had an enlightened expression. It seems that he has a new understanding of this thing called love. You should take care of yourself. You flirted with that girl from the Huang family. Did you think I didn't see it, you? Lu Chen stopped joking halfway. Looking at Sun Qi with an inexplicable look, he said sternly, "You go first, I'll be back soon." "Ah, are you going to poop? Get lost." After Sun Qi left, Lu Chen walked a little further away and asked in his mind, "Hongshuang, you just said there was a killing intention. Is the perception accurate?" "Master, how could I be wrong? I'm a professional in this area," Hongshuang said proudly, and then continued, "But the strange thing is that I felt the hidden killing intention, but I didn't find out who it was. It seems to be blocked by something." Lu Chen's eyes were deep. This wilderness, if something goes wrong, the consequences will be very serious. He thought for a while and decided to go back first. Just after walking a few steps, he suddenly heard a scream from a distance, which seemed to be a female student. "Have you taken action?" Lu Chen quickly returned to the camp. I found that Song Kaifeng also stood up and looked in the direction where Li Mengyan and others left. The scream came from that side. After waiting for a few seconds, Li Mengyan's slightly embarrassed voice sounded, "Old Song, can you come over here?" She hesitated to speak, as if it was inconvenient to say it. Song Kaifeng thought for a few seconds, and replied, "Okay." After that, he walked towards the darkness over there. At this time, in Lu Chen's mind, Hongshuang issued a warning again, "Master, the killing intent has increased." "No, there are several more killing intents. But there is still a shield." Lu Chen looked solemn, watching Song Kaifeng's back disappear in the night. Without distinguishing the specific reason, he couldn't say anything. Maybe it would alert the enemy. Besides, Song Kaifeng is a master after all, enough to deal with many emergencies. After thinking about it, Lu Chen called Sun Qi and Lin Shui to him again, and whispered, "If there is anything, you two follow me and don't move." Waited for more than 10 seconds. Several girls who went to the woods to relieve themselves came back one after another. Lu Chen secretly counted and found that besides Master Song and Li Mengyan, there was one person missing. Did something happen? Just as he was wondering. Nearly a minute later, the last girl came back and walked directly to Lu Chen's side. "Hello, classmate Lu, my name is Lu Yuan. Master Song asked you to come over." The night enveloped everything. The blood moon in the sky appeared and disappeared from time to time, and the occasional light cast down dyed the mountains and forests with a layer of scarlet. After Song Kaifeng stood up, he walked towards the direction of Li Mengyan's voice. Although he was confused, he was not worried. He just felt that it was something difficult to talk about. Sure enough, as soon as he walked in, he saw Li Mengyan sitting on the ground, holding a girl in his arms, with an embarrassed look on his face. Several other girls who came here to relieve themselves were also present. After scanning the circle, Song Kaifeng's eyes fell on the injured person again, and he asked in a deep voice, "Mengyan, what happened?" Li Mengyan smiled bitterly and shook his head, and said softly, "It was Lu Yuan. When she was relieving herself just now, she was bitten on the buttocks by the Earth-Z flower python, and now her whole body is paralyzed. And my spiritual power is not enough to expel the poison." After hearing this, Song Kaifeng's face was stunned. With his master's cultivation, of course it was easy to catch him. But after all, she was a female student, and it was that part, plus Li Mengyan, who had an ambiguous relationship with him, was beside him. Seemingly seeing the embarrassment on his face, Li Mengyan chuckled. Then she turned her head and looked at the girls next to her, "You guys go first. We will come later, remember to tell everyone not to worry." After everyone left, Li Mengyan whispered to Song Kaifeng again, "Feng, saving people is important, it's okay. And, I don't mind these." When she said this, a strange color flashed in her eyes. The spiritual power in her body fluctuated quietly. Not only that, Lu Yuan in her arms also had a cold color in her eyes, and she seemed to be holding something in her hand, ready to be activated at any time. As long as Song Kaifeng was solved, the rest of the geniuses were chickens, and they would be easily captured. If they can be captured alive, they will be captured alive, and sent to the church to see if they can be brainwashed successfully. If not, Just kill them directly. Okay. Song Kaifeng nodded. Just as he took a few steps forward, he suddenly remembered something. He slapped his head and said happily, I almost forgot. I have a high-level detoxification pill. Just take it directly. As he said that, he took out a jade bottle from the storage bracelet and threw it over. After all, the girl who was bitten had her skirt slightly lifted up, occasionally revealing her spring scenery. So Song Kaifeng did not go over. Ah, okay, that's just right. Li Mengyan received the thing. Her face was slightly flustered, but she still forced herself to calm down. Grandmaster, it's not easy to kill. Otherwise, there would be no need to use so many means. While feeding the detoxification pill, she looked at Lu Yuanyuan in her arms and decided to implement the second plan. The latter nodded imperceptibly. After swallowing the medicine, it took effect soon. While Lu Yuanyuan struggled to get up, she quietly opened the thing in her hand. A colorless and odorless gas spread rapidly. Thank you, Master Song. Thank you, Sister Li. After thanking them gratefully, Lu Yuanyuan waved and said, then I'll go first. In the dense forest, only Song Kaifeng and Li Mengyan were left. The atmosphere became a little subtle for a while. And the colorless and odorless gas also penetrated into the bodies of the two. Song Kaifeng frowned slightly, as if he had noticed something, but he was not sure yet. After all, there were too many smells in the mountains and forests. Mengyan, we also. Before he finished speaking, his face suddenly showed a solemn look, his eyes were fixed on a certain place, and he lowered his voice and said, be careful, there are enemies. The reason why he didn't rush over was naturally that the students behind were more important. Just when he was about to take Li Mengyan back to the camp to defend. After hearing his warning, the latter suddenly panicked, stumbled and climbed up, and came behind Song Kaifeng. One hand tightly held Song Kaifeng's arm. Are there enemies? How could there be enemies here? Is the defense line of the Grey Fog Sea broken? Her expression was extremely terrified, as if she was overly frightened. The storage ring on her right hand flashed with light, and a dagger suddenly appeared in her hand. Go over first. Go to the students. Song Kaifeng's uneasiness became more and more intense, and the spiritual power in his body seemed to be affected by some kind of hysteresis effect. But if that was the case, it would not have a big impact on him, who was a master-level cultivator. More importantly, it was his body protecting energy. It seemed to be being gnawed by countless insects and ants, and it was difficult to condense into shape. Go over quickly. I'm here, the children can't be in trouble, you go and activate the formation. Puff. Li Mengyan behind him suddenly made a move and stabbed the dagger in his hand silently. Under normal circumstances, it would have been blocked by Song Kaifeng's body protecting energy, but this time, there was no obstacle at all, and it went straight in. After passing through clothes, membranes, and muscles, a dagger tip was slightly exposed on Song Kaifeng's chest. He lowered his head, watching the blood dripping from the dagger tip, and saw that his clothes were instantly stained. He could even sense that the terrifying toxin on the dagger was madly eroding his body. You. Song Kaifeng's face turned pale in an instant. Feng, don't blame me. As a master, you may be of great help to me. But the ancient god church gave more. Li Mengyan's murmured voice came from his ear. Don't worry, I will treat the group of students you are protecting well. At this time, 5 figures came from the distant forest. 2 black robes, 3 gray robes, with strange patterns on the cuffs, which were exactly the clothes of the ancient god church. The master of Zhongnan Martial Arts Academy was actually tricked like this. One of the black robes was quite emotional, looking at Song Kaifeng who was unconscious on the ground, and urged, you 3, take Song Kaifeng away, remember to keep him alive. Otherwise, once he dies, the Martial Arts Academy will know immediately. Affect the hunting of other routes. Yes, the 3 gray robes immediately acted. Next, it's your turn. The black robe in the lead turned around, looked at the envoy of the same level as himself, and turned away, hiding in the dark. Then, in Li Mengyan's shocked expression, he saw that the senior members of the ancient god church in front of him took off the outer black robes and were wearing the same clothes as Song Kaifeng. Not only that, the ordinary appearance of that person began to change rapidly, and he looked exactly like Song Kaifeng. Okay, it's Lu Chen's turn. I heard that this seedling is very good, and the big shots above have named him to be taken back. I want to see what kind of monster he is. The fake Song Kaifeng talked to himself, and his voice gradually changed. Li Mengyan was shocked, and after restraining his emotions, he asked respectfully, Lord, it's just a student. Is it worth your effort? Wouldn't it be better to just catch him? The envoys of the ancient God Church are all at the 9th level of flying. Although they are at the same level as Li Mengyan, their combat power is much higher than hers. After all, she was defeated in less than 10 moves. Because of this, Li Mengyan's attitude is also relatively low. You don't understand. That little guy has mastered the Earth-level body movement. If you catch him directly, it might backfire. It would be hard to explain if he was killed. Seeing that Li Mengyan was about to say something, he whispered. Hush, Xiao Yuer is coming. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.